waiting. And then I'll get you guys that link in the chat. All right, I guess it's going now. So
that's what it says.
Yeah, so how do I share it? Copy it? Oh, you guys have access.
Yeah, it looks like I can copy the link here.
Great, okay, great.
Let me do that here.
All right, and then I can't, so start the broadcast. You guys can see how many attendees are in there, right?
It says 2 watching now, so yeah.
Nice, so they're gonna start, cool.
You want us to promote the link?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Perfect. Dope. All right.
All right.
Done.
Give it another minute and then start. Kaz, you wanna introduce everyone?
What's good? What's good? I see the chat's already popping up. 81 participants, 82 participants. Okay. We do have 100. It does have 100 cap. At 100, it's gonna cap out. And we are sharing the link on the chat. So if you have anybody that wants to join or wants to watch, I'm sorry, you can send them the link. I just posted the link on the chat. So if everybody can see the chat, there's a YouTube link on there. So you want to let it hit 100 and then we start, or what?
Yeah, I mean, we start now. How about that?
All right, I want to welcome everybody to the MacOS Serato Pro webinar. I'm DJ Cass. Some of y'all know me. I'm here to coordinate everything, be the mediator for all this. This is ran and done by C-Flow.
Yes, sir.
You can give a brief introduction about yourself, C-Flow.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for everyone for joining. I'm glad to do this Mac Help webinar. I've been DJing for 20 years. 10 years ago, before I moved to New York, I was working for Apple for 5 years. So I still am an Apple certified Mac technician, and I know the ins and outs of Mac OS and Apple products and stuff. And I have not yet come across a problem that I can't solve unless something's like physically broken. So I have been doing Zooms one-on-one with DJs over the past couple of weeks during the shutdown. And I noticed a lot of guys had their computers set up with some basic things missing in Finder and system preferences. And I started to think that a webinar to share all the super easy tips and tricks would be easy and helpful for everyone who has a Mac and in the community. So I wanted to put this webinar on, and then I invited these guests to join me as panelists.
Awesome, awesome. We'll go down the line. Next up is OP. OP, if you want to give a quick introduction and let us know what you're going to help us with.
Absolutely. What's good, everybody? Hope you all well and safe. My name is OP. I'm the Artist Relations Manager for Serato. I am going to be showing you guys Serato Play, and I'll give you a quick brief introduction to Serato Studio, our beat making and DJ edit software. And any questions and things that you might have in regards to Serato stuff, please feel free to hit me up. We'll put my email in somewhere in the chat, so if you need to hit me up on an individual tip, you can hit me up, let me know what's good. All right, but good to be with you all.
Thank you. Thank you. At the end, we'll go back and share everybody's contact info. Everything that we go through, we'll probably end up sharing it on the chat. So just stick around and whatnot. Next up, Brett B, if you want to give a quick intro and let us know what's up.
Yeah, I'm Brett B, DJ, tech guy, edit guy. You might kind of know me from the edits and whatnot. Just kind of here to give my 2 cents, when it comes especially to the Mac stuff, the tech stuff, and see what kind of questions you guys have for us.
Awesome. Next up, we got Nick Bike. Same thing. If you want to give us a quick intro and let us know what's up.
Hey, everybody. I'm Nick. I'm in Vancouver, BC, up in Canada, and I'm going to be giving some Ableton Live 10 tips on the preferences and settings panel. So we're not actually making anything, but just like kind of, you open Ableton, you see all these different tabs of a whole mess of terminology that probably doesn't really make sense, but kind of strip it down to the simple stuff and get you going and make things more efficient for you.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I just want to say thanks to all you guys for joining me and lending your expertise in your various areas. And Kaz, thanks for hosting. Kaz will be running the Q&A, so you have questions, he's going to be moderating that and kind of taking, looking at the chat and handling that while I do the presentation. I do just want to preface this entire presentation with like I said, I've been doing one-on-one Zooms with people, and I have plans to continue doing that with not only DJs, but small business clients and home users. So if you have any friends who are working from home and need IT help, this is sort of like the free info session in order to hopefully book some one-on-ones down the line. So please keep me in mind and think of me when you are running across tech issues, whether it's, your mom who can't set up her iPad or anyone who needs help. Please, that's what this is for. So, all right, let's get right into it. So we're going to be going over some topics here, including easy things you can do to set up your Mac, and then some more DJ specific stuff at the end. Best practices for backup, which will put you in a good situation when it comes to troubleshooting worst case scenarios. Very simple things you can do for security and passwords that'll make your lives easier and keep you more protected. And then the difference in cloud services and what each one does and doesn't do. All right, so the main theme as I've gone through this and built this presentation and kind of made my outline was that you are in charge. And a lot of things in macOS and just across all the Apple products, they try to kind of take control and do things for you. And as pro users and people who are using their computers in a live setting, I really think it's better that you maybe disable some of the basic things and that you are in charge and you're making the decisions when it comes to the software settings. So just keep that in mind. And I kind of come back to this over and over. So, all right. So why is Apple the best? Historically, the main reason when Mac OS and Windows were the two major OSs kind of competing for the marketplace, Apple was in charge of creating the hardware and the software together. And that allowed them to create it very tight rather than Windows, which was being built for many different platforms. They were building it for Dell and Gateway and all these other hardware components. Apple knew exactly how they were writing the software. So they were able to make it super stable and super secure. And that's a big advantage. So it became the platform of choice for professionals for obvious reasons. I mean, if you need to make money on your computer, it's better that your computer doesn't get a virus or shut down in the middle. So for a long time, it was definitely built for professionals. Now, around 2007, when the iPhone dropped, Apple shifted its focus away from professionals. And ever since then, it has started to decline in quality when it comes to stability, which was what brought it to the forefront to begin with. So you can see this most with their operating system releases. Now, you can see here in this chart, Apple was coming out, I mean, before the iPhone, they were coming out with OSs every 2 or 3 years. But once they shifted their focus to the iPhone, Snow Leopard was the last operating system developed during that period. And then ever since then, they've come out with an operating system once a year, which is not long enough to allow these operating systems to mature and to work out all the bugs. They got their dev team putting one out and jumping right on the next one, and that doesn't really make sense. So you can see a pattern that it seems to be almost every other version is the stable one. And these I've highlighted here, the ones that I think you should take note of as the good ones. Now, you can see between 10.7 and 10.8, they had to fix Lion with Mountain Lion. It wasn't like a giant leap, it was a revision and it fixed it. And then they kind of dropped the ball between Yosemite and El Capitan and Sierra, because El Capitan was too heavy and then Sierra was too heavy too. So they had to come out with High Sierra. So these are the ones that I consider to be the stable releases and the ones that are professional use. Now these days, where we've landed here in 2020, which OS should you be running? You should be running either High Sierra or Mojave at this point. Now, the High Sierra is built to run well on 2012 and 2013 units. And everything after that, you should be on Mojave. You should not be on Catalina yet. It's abandoned 32-bit support, and some of the audio stuff we use, whether it's Ableton or just like under the hood things, we're not ready yet for our professions to move away from Mojave just yet. And I know it's a tough situation right now with not many of us having stable incomes, but I do have to say that if your computer is older than 2012 at this point, I would put it a high priority of getting a computer that is newer than 2011, because as time goes on and software rolls out, they're leaving these older Mac OSs in the dust. Serato's not going to support 10.11. I don't even know if it does right now, but the point is that this software starts to become legacy, so you need to keep up with the hardware at some level. And the prices are actually come down. I'm recommending investing in a computer that's 8 years old at worst case scenario. So these do come pretty cheap these days. One thing you can do to kind of figure out where you are is go to everymac.com and you can enter your computer's serial number and look up all the information about your computer. Now, it's not specific to like how you have it configured, but it shows you the model and when it came out. It shows you what year it technically is called, the OS that shipped with it, the OS that it can support maximum, the max RAM that it can support, whether the hard drive can be upgraded or not. So I encourage everyone to go and put their serial number in and get that information so you know what you're looking for. I can show you real quickly how to get to it. Up here under About This Mac, you can go and find your serial. It's running kind of slow on Zoom. There we go. So the serial number is right here. You can copy and paste it right in. You can also go to System Report, or I think it's More Info on older computers. And under Hardware, it's got your serial number right here. So you can just copy that, paste it in, and get all that information. All right, so this is what if you've seen my Twitter, I advocate for this computer a lot. This is what I consider the best computer for DJs and possibly even the best computer Apple's put out. It is the early 2015 13-inch Retina MacBook Pro. This particular model number, the MF483, is maxed out. It has the 3.1 processor, 16 gigs of RAM, the 512 hard drive. And the reason it's good for DJs, it's got the regular USB ports, like the classic. You can go to the club. You don't need adapters. You don't need special cables. And macOS Mojave runs great on it. Now, originally it was over $2,200, and these days you can get it for like $657 used or refurbished on eBay. So it's quite well within reach if you're upgrading and if you're looking to get a new computer, but you don't want to get one of the newest ones. I mean, I wouldn't even recommend getting the newest one. I think this is the one to go with. So this is the information. The 483 is the one that's maxed out. Now, you can actually get the same configuration with a smaller hard drive, a 128 or 256, and you can upgrade the hard drive aftermarket to 1 terabyte or even 2 terabytes, and it's one single screw. So as long as you plan on running Mojave, which you should, especially on this computer, you can do that upgrade. So if you're shopping around and it has the 3.1 and the 16 gig of RAM, you can, it doesn't matter what hard drive you're going to get if you're trying to buy a new computer and it's within your budget if it's cheaper for the one with less capacity. But you cannot change the RAM after the fact. So I would recommend against an 8 gig RAM unit. So the alternative to that, if that one's too much and you don't do like pro level video editing or audio editing or Ableton, and all you really do is maybe DJ sometimes and do Facebook and email and stuff, this is a great alternative. It's the 2017 model, so it's a bit newer. It's also got an i7 processor. The Airs, they do max out at 8 gigs of RAM, but you can still get the giant hard drive and they have the regular ports. Now, the Airs that they're putting out these days are severely crippled. Like your iPhone has a better processor than the Air that they're selling right now for close to like $2,000. So I would definitely look at this 2017 model if you're looking at something that isn't the MacBook Pro. When it comes to upgrading hardware, I wanted to go over some of this. Use your serial number on every Mac, figure out which one you have. The ones that are mid 2012 and earlier, I call those the tanks because they still have the CD drive. If you still have a CD drive, I would definitely recommend you upgrade your hard drive to an SSD. It's in like the $60, $70 range, I think, for like a terabyte SSD. And that's a super easy upgrade. You can do it yourself. It's basic tiny Phillips screwdriver, and you can upgrade your RAM as well. So use that every Mac serial to look up how much max RAM you can put in. Sometimes you can put in 8, sometimes you can put in 16. And I would do that as well. It's very cheap and it's something that will make your computer much faster for minimal upgrade or minimal fee. If you have one after 2012, the ones without the CD drive, you can, as I mentioned, upgrade the SSD to larger, but you can't upgrade the RAM. And this is the image of the single screw upgrade for the SSD. Now I'm going to show you some basic things in macOS that you can easily configure that will make your lives easier, using your computer easier, and just overall help you get around your laptop. So let me move over here and I will show you. Now I've created a new user on my computer, so it's as it comes when it's installed, so I can show you some of these things, and I'm just going to dive right in. The first thing I do when I get a new computer is I show the battery percentage so I can see it at a glance. I go to Finder, Preferences, and I configure Finder so that in the General tab, I want to see my hard drive on the desktop, and anything I connect to my computer shows up on the desktop. I want my new Finder window to open to my user. And then I go to Sidebar and I want to enable all the folders so that I can see everything when I open a Finder window. Sometimes I even go and I check all these. So literally everything is visible in a Finder window. And then I close this down and I go and I open up the hard drive. I take the applications folder and I bring it right down here to the dock. If you right click it and choose list, and then choose right click again and choose folder, you can quickly get to all the applications in your computer. So you don't need to have your dock clogged up with all this stock Apple stuff that you don't use. I mean, even if you use it sometimes, I would really only put the things that you really want access to all the time in your dock, because even though I'm tossing them out of the dock, they're still visible right here. I can get to them. It's like, it's one click away. The other thing I do is I want to see the size of my hard drive and how much room I have left. So I go to View, Show Status Bar. And this will allow me anywhere I am on my computer to see how much room I have left. These are things that are like super easy that will help me get around. I can go to my user folder, I can go to my music folder, and I see a lot of people missing this stuff when I've been zooming into theirs. Very easy fix, should really help with your life as far as moving around. So that's Finder preferences. The next thing I do is I move on to the system preferences. And in system preferences, basically you can just go through these and get familiar with all the different things, but there's a bunch of them that I would absolutely do off the bat. The first is, in the dock, I'm going to turn magnification on and make it smaller so I can kind of get to what I need to, but it's not in my way. I don't like this is new I think in Mojave, they show you the recently opened stuff. Like I didn't put that in my dock, Apple put that in my dock. And again, you're in charge. So I turn off show recents. I don't like that. I leave here. I go to energy saver. Now I'm going to turn off again. I want to be in charge here. Apple putting my hard drives to sleep. I don't want my hard drives to go to sleep. I don't want any of this stuff. I make the display longer. I turn the battery longer. I take off both power adapter and battery. I turn off all their settings. I instantly go to Bluetooth and I show it up here in the bar because I want to see it. I do the same with Time Machine, which we'll come back later, but I'd show that in the menu bar so I have access to it. And then I also go to trackpad. I hate the inverted scrolling. That's up to you, that's personal preference, but I turn all this stuff off because this is, again, things that you can accidentally do that will, in my opinion, interrupt your computer experience. Personally, I like this. That's 3 fingers, but that's just my own preference. But I need it here so I can get around during this call. And like I said, I wiped all my settings. The last thing, I guess, is a lot of people don't really play around with is displays. I can't change this because we're in a Zoom and it'll mess with all the screen settings. But if you go to scaled, you can go to more space and it uses your Retina display. It will maximize the amount that you can see on your computer. So that's a really powerful thing to do. Software update. This is obviously one that bothers people every day. Now, you go to advanced. If you uncheck everything, you're going to be in the best position, in my opinion. It will still check for updates. And right now, I'm on Mojave. It's going to try to tell me to get Catalina, but it's not going to automatically download Catalina. It's not going to do anything till I say. But there are other updates available for my computer. But because they're pushing the next operating system on you, it's actually going to be a bit difficult to see. So we got to wait here. And as soon as it says, hey, you've got Catalina, there's a tiny little text underneath that says more info. And if you click more info, here it is. You can see not the Catalina more info, but other updates more info. These are the updates you do want on your computer. So open those up, install. I left this uninstalled so I could show you, but this, I would definitely do that. Like, not right now, but tonight I would absolutely install that stuff. The last thing here is iCloud. Now, I am a big advocate of syncing everything on iCloud because it helps me manage my contacts and it saves my photos. And again, we'll talk about this later, but iCloud Drive, we're going to come back to this at the end, but right away, make sure you are not syncing your desktop and documents folder. This is, again, Apple trying to do it for you. And I would consider pro users. We don't want Apple to do it for us. We want to be in charge of that. So definitely turn that off if you haven't already. If you have it on and you're going to turn it off, it's going to delete the files off your desktop. So they're still going to be in the server, but they're going to instantly disappear from your Mac. Maybe copy them off or do a backup so you have them, and then turn that off and bring them right back. Before I move on, Kaz, is there anything that's going on in the chat?
No, people are just talking, there's 2 questions. One of them, let me see. So I have a Mac 12.
Yeah, I don't want to do individual stuff yet.
No, everything's just individual stuff.
Cool. So the other things here on my list, I'm just going to keep going then. The other things in my list are cleaning up the desktop files. Your best bet is to make a folder on your desktop called desktop files and move all the files into that. Because if there are files on your desktop, Mac OS is automatically caching them into, like, every time it boots, it's trying to prioritize the files on the desktop, and it will make your computer run slower. I don't usually talk about computers running slower because that's not really what's happening. But if you have a really messy desktop, then Mac OS is working against you because you're not supposed to have a messy desktop. So you're well advised to put all your files into a folder on the desktop called desktop files, if that's how you want to do it. The next, that's it. All right, the next thing here, we're going to go right into regular maintenance because people ask me this all the time, like, what are the easy things to do? The first is resetting the pram. And this has been around since like the late 80s on the first Apple computers. You restart your computer holding down Command Option P and R, and specifically the Command Option on the left side of the space bar. As long as you hold these 4 buttons, The computer, when it's starting up, will restart and restart and restart. It'll just chime, restart and chime and restart. You let it do that 4 times and then you let go. And when you reset the pram, it resets basic things like your fan speed, your computer screen brightness, the volume. It can reset low-level USB things. I've seen it fix things in iTunes, which I don't even really understand how, but the point is that it's super easy. And if you're having computer problems, it's a no-brainer to just do this really quickly. The next one is resetting the SMC. I do this way less often. This is specifically, it used to be called Power Management Unit. Now it's like System Management Controller or something like that. And this actually changes per laptop. The resetting the pram is for every computer, laptop, iMac, whatever. But the SMC is specifically for laptops because of the battery and the charging capabilities. So you have to look up on Apple's website which computer model you have. I know the touch bars, it's a whole different process. The computers that you can pull the batteries out, it's a different process. But for the ones we're talking about here, the mid 2015, 2014, 2013s, you hold Control, Option, and Shift, hold all 3, then you hold the power for 10 seconds. And there's really no indication, and it did anything at all, except for possibly the tiny LED on your power adapter might change color. And this is for low-level power things, and it can be related to power to the USB. So it's worth knowing about this shortcut and trying this as a troubleshooting step if you're running into any USB issues. Moving on, this one's really good to do, I would say maybe once a month. It's called booting into safe mode, and all you do is hold Shift when you boot. When you boot up, it takes much longer to start the computer because it's doing a lot of things under the hood. And this is like regular maintenance. It's clearing the cache files. It's doing a file system check. It's repairing your hard drive if there's errors in the file system. And overall, it takes longer. And when it does boot up, you'll see safe mode in red or safe boot, but it'll be in red and you'll see it, and it will put you on the login screen, even if you have your computer set to auto log in. You log in, you shut it back down, you start it back up normal, and it will take longer than you would expect to boot up that time after because it's rebuilding all the things that it had deleted in the safe boot process. So maybe once it boots up that second time, just reboot it anyway, and that should be normal. This is like a very easy thing to do, and it's also a great troubleshooting step if you're having trouble with a lot of the Apple apps like iTunes, or if you can't get the software to update properly, then you want to like go into safe mode and then update the software. But anytime you're like going through troubleshooting and you have to resort to safe mode, I would definitely make sure you're backed up first, because when you hold Shift and it's booting and it does the file system check, if there is something wrong with your hard drive, this could send it over the edge and break it further, which you would want to find out if something was wrong with your hard drive. So like, I'm not saying don't do safe mode because you'd be scared of it. I'm saying just boot, like make sure you're backed up before doing this process. Some basic other things we can do. People are always asking me about their hard drives being full, and you can use this program. It's free. It's a tiny program. It's called Disk Inventory X, and it will show you a visual representation of the files on your computer. I have it loaded up here, so let me show it to you. Here it is. I just scanned my hard drive. You click it and you click open, and it takes like 5-10 minutes to scan, but then you can move it around, and I hit info, it comes up with this, and you can click on things and find out what they are. So if I click this, like, what's this giant file? It says, oh, it's Ableton, it's 3 gigs. And then you get a little more info here. It's got a color-coded chart, so I can say, what's this file? And it says, oh, it's a security update. It's almost a gig. It's taking up room on my Mac. Like in that case, I would want to delete that. I'm not going to do anything here because we're in the middle of this chat and I don't want to like mess with my laptop, but you can right-click it. You can move it to trash. You can reveal it in the Finder, and it will open it in Finder, show it to you, and then you can toss it in the trash. It will show you large movie files, whatever it is. You can kind of see these different, it says applications. So like, you know, maybe you want to throw away PowerPoint, but keep Word and Excel. Maybe you want to throw away iMovie, you never use it. Here I can say, oh, this is an installer package. What is this? This, if you don't recognize it, and it's in like these private files, this is part of the computer. You don't want to delete it. I see Andre raising his hand. I'll get to you as soon as I'm done with this. But basically, I just wanted to kind of plug this program because it really is helpful. It's very easy to understand what's going on your computer. And like I said, if there's stuff you don't recognize, I would probably not toss it out. But a lot of people will see, oh, you know, why is this here? Whatever. So that's Disk Inventory X. They actually, they had a version out for like 8 years and never updated it. And they updated it like 2 months ago. It was like always super old, and they just came out with a new one. So even if you have an older computer, that's something that you can use.
Someone just asked on the chat.
Yeah.
Should I download one of these Clean My Mac type apps for basic maintenance?
This is right here. It's my next slide. So I would say don't do that. Again, you're in charge. The Apple computer system is set up to not really get viruses, to not have to have these McAfee type things that Windows have to have. And I would consider Clean My Mac, Bitdefender, Avast. There's all these different programs that their business model is to get your money and get your information. Like the Apple system does not require you to run these things, and I absolutely recommend against them. As long as you're set up doing regular backups and regular maintenance, you'll be in a good position and you won't need these things. So I'm going to say uninstall them. You know, I mean, go through all the steps to get your computer clean, but definitely not. I do not think you should be using those. Another one that is a very simple one that I come across is people using the wrong charger with their computer. Now, there are different wattages to different chargers, and the MacBook Air is the 45 watt. The 13-inch MacBook Pros are the 60 watt, and the 15-inch MacBook Pros are the 85 watt. If you use a smaller charger on a larger computer, you risk damaging the power system in the computer, the battery, and the charger. So if you're using a MacBook Air charger on a 13-inch laptop, that's not good. But you can do the opposite. You are allowed to use an 85 watt charger on any of the smaller laptops. So it's in your best interest if after this you go check and you're like, oh my gosh, I do have a 13-inch Pro and I am using a 45 whatever, and you want to fix it, go buy the 85. In fact, anytime I buy extra power adapters, one for my DJ bag, one for my bedroom, one for my living room, always just buy the 85, because that's going to be the one that's the most versatile, and it'll work on, it doesn't damage your computer. In fact, it might even charge it a little faster. I'm not quite sure, but I do know that I've seen people being like, my computer doesn't charge, and it's like, you don't have the right power adapter. So you can check the wattage right there on the adapter. Okay. Yeah.
Something kind of, another question is about Apple Care. Is Apple Care still worthwhile for laptops?
Okay, so you only have the first year to buy Apple Care. As in, your computer comes with 1 year of warranty covering the same thing that Apple Care covers. Apple Care extends it to 3 years, meaning you're paying for 2 years.
Right.
The 1 year is included. You have, last I checked, you have 1 year to do that. So you can, on the 364th day, you can buy Apple Care and register it. I don't know if that's changed. It's been a long time since I've worked in the store or purchased one myself. And I know now there's Apple Care Plus, so I don't really know the terms of all those things. I would definitely ask someone who sells it.
Right.
But it depends. If you have a $3,000 computer, then I would probably consider spending $350 on Apple Care. If you're buying a used one, you don't even have that opportunity. The other option that's out there for DJs especially is getting individual individual article insurance. And I think it's $50 a year. It depends who your insurance provider is, but you can cover your laptop, and the individual article insurance is going to cover way more than Apple Care. It's going to cover accidental damage. If you know, in our computers, I mean, that's up to your insurance service provider to say, hey, that's a business product, we're not going to cover that, whatever. But if you get the computer covered and it gets spilled on, theoretically, you could have insurance for it that is much cheaper than Apple Care, that will cover more than Apple Care. So again, I can't really advise one way or another. I would just say, if you're buying a brand new computer, and you have the funds to buy AppleCare and you got the most expensive one, like in that case, yeah. Or I know IMAX, I think it's $170 for AppleCare, and in that case, it's like, all right, you know, IMAX like $2,500 for beefed up one, like maybe then I would buy the $170. It's cheaper for that because it's stationary, you're not taking it with you everywhere. But I guess case by case, you know, I don't necessarily, I'm not like diehard buy the AppleCare.
Right.
All right, I'm gonna keep going because I mean, I just want to make sure we get all the info out there. Another easy thing you can do, and this people's jaws I'm sure are gonna drop, but fully erasing your computer every 6 months. Now that sounds like an insane thing to do, but if you are maintaining your backups and doing everything that you're set up to do, this isn't that difficult. It actually only takes like 2.5 hours, and it will make your computer run as if it's brand new. I personally do it every 6 months. If you do it every 6 months to a year, all you have to be doing is backing up the time machine. You have the installer, you do a clean wipe, and you bring everything back, and then you have to reinstall the programs. And it's fairly straightforward, and it makes your computer run as if it's new all the time, which rules. So I'm gonna go very quickly over how to do that without like heavy details. To clean install, you download the Mojave installer from the Mac App Store or the High Sierra installer. Kaz, we just did this, tell them.
Right. Yeah, it's super easy. I mean, you literally just brought my old computer to life. It's, if you have an old computer, you know, 2012, you want to use it for something else, have a backup laptop, you know, CFlow will do it, everything through Zoom, whatnot. And, you know,
and your computer, you just said your old one's running faster than your 2015.
I'm running the Zoom right now on my 2012, and Zoom runs faster. I mean, I don't have any music. All I have is Photoshop on here, and it's running perfect. Like I had it collecting dust. So
yeah, we're gonna do the 2015 next, and it's gonna be back up to par. So it's easy, and this is something I can help walk you through. If you wanted like the full service, we would discuss that, and it would be a multi-stage Zoom where like I would come and help build the USB for you, and then we'd come and erase, and then we'd come restore your stuff. Done it to like 3 or 4 different people this week, and everyone's super stoked. Basically, you buy a USB, you use the Mac App Store Mojave, like from Apple, to build the USB as a bootable drive. You put it in the side of the computer, you boot up to the USB, you do a clean install of Mojave or High Sierra, and then afterwards we go through and we pick through the time machine to get everything back. The reason you don't want to upgrade the OS or update, I mean, you do want to update. Update is inside, so like 10.13 to 10.13.2 to 10.13.5, those are updates and you want to do those. But you do not want to upgrade between 10.12 to 10.13 or 10.13 to 10.14. You want to do a clean install between every version because we are using our computers in live settings as professionals. And if you have a performance machine, you don't want to have all the crap from the last operating system merged with the new stuff. It's the installer is designed to do that for you, and like, but I don't trust that. Like, it's not a good practice, and you're going to be better off doing the install process. To get the stuff back, basically the only thing that is really important is to rename your user on the new fresh install the exact same as your old install. Meaning, if I have my username as Coleman Howard, but my folder, my home folder is DJ CFlow, I want to make sure when I do the new clean install that I make my home folder DJ CFlow. So when I transfer the files back, all the files in music are in DJ CFlow music, and in my backup, I bring them back. When I boot Serato, it's looking at that exact same spot, and you will not miss a beat. When you're done, it'll keep going. Your crates are there. You can go play literally as soon as you're done. So that's this is something again that I could walk people through or do on Zoom, and it's something I recommend that you do all the time. Any stuff going on in the Q&A or chats?
Just a few. I mean, there's personal questions, and then Victor just asked, when I go to the App Store, the only update available is Catalina. Am I doing it right? I'm guessing
so it's not. Yeah. So it's not. I'll send out. There's links. You can Google it, but I'm happy to send them out. I already have them, but there's links to High Sierra and Mojave in the App Store that you can't find if you search for updates. And I don't even know if you can find it if you can search Mojave, But if you click the link, like it's like a hyperlink, it'll open a window in Safari, and then it will open the App Store and it will get you there, and you can click download and it will download in full.
Yeah, any kind of personal questions at the end, you know, like I said, we'll Cifo will share his info, and you know, he's willing to sit down with everybody and see case by case exactly what you need. I know some of the questions in here were personal, you know, with certain specs from their own laptops or whatever.
Yeah, it's not something we have the space for in this presentation.
Yeah,
so.
We're just running through everything. So
yeah, I'm gonna keep going. All right, so security and passwords. I know a lot of people's reaction is like, oh, like that's, you know, worrying about this stuff online is for old people. And you know, back in the day, I used to advocate, oh, you don't need a password on your Mac, like that just slows you down. But if your computer's physically stolen, like physically gone, having a password is like the easiest thing you could have done to save yourself. Same thing with an iPhone. Like I've seen people who still don't have like a basic code on their iPhone. It's like if the phone's gone, people are going to have access to your Gmail and your bank and then whatever. So like having like a basic level of security is a very easy thing to do to protect yourself and protect your data and protect your stuff online. And in some cases, it can actually make your life easier. So I'm going to talk about that because I know some people have trouble remembering all the passwords and stuff. So I've got a tip and tricks for that. So here's some easy stuff you can do for online security. A VPN, it's a virtual private network, and it obscures your, well, it doesn't obscure, it hides your traffic from your ISP and from visiting sites online. So let me show you, I like private internet access. It's a program, it runs right here. It's literally all you do is turn it on. I turn it on and now my traffic is private online, meaning one use is like if I'm traveling overseas and you want to continue watching US Netflix, you can turn this on and say you're in the US. Now I can watch US Netflix. If I wanted to download something that my ISP might not want me to download, you can turn this on and it will just look like internet data. They can't see the specifics because it's tunneled through another server. You can choose all these different servers and where you are. And they even have an app. I haven't really messed with it on my phone, but it's an app on your phone. I think it comes out to like between $3 and $5 a month if you buy a year for this particular private internet access. But there's a bunch of VPN services and I absolutely recommend using them. Very easy, very easy. Brave browser. This is something I'm only starting to hear other people be aware of. And it is an alternative to Chrome, meaning Google Chrome is based on Chromium, and Chromium is open source, but Google Chrome puts out Google's version of Chromium browser. Brave is also based on Chromium. And what I mean by that is it functions, as far as I can tell, exactly like Google Chrome, to the point where I can even go to the Chrome store and install Chrome extensions on Brave. But Brave doesn't track your data. They don't sell your data. They have a built-in ad block that is different. It functions differently than the ad block. So I'm going to run it here. And I highly recommend getting this browser. It's better than Firefox. It's better than Safari, and it's better than Google because it's not tracking you. So here's, I did a first boot here. It says, hey, how do you do it? You say, okay, import my stuff from Chrome. Now it's going to bring over all my stuff, and my Chrome is syncing to my Google account. So I have all my bookmarks and passwords and whatever. Oh, I'm running Chrome right now to show you because I wanted to leave these open. So I'm showing the presentation in Chrome so I can't. This is talking about analytics, and you can do your default search engine to DuckDuckGo instead of Google. I will show you why in a second. And then this is their ad block, but also their alternative to ads. And it's basically a blockchain where you earn rewards for every ad you don't see. And then you can like give people virtual money for like support people online if you want. I don't really use it, but I turn it on because it just like generates. This is where you turn it on. And then you can go to the Chrome store and add all your extensions. It's super easy. I can't show you the bookmarks that would have come over if I wasn't running Chrome side by side. But this is, again, a very easy thing you can do that I highly recommend as an alternative to Google, just for the information that you are giving out for free. Which brings me to my next point, using DuckDuckGo instead of Google Chrome, or sorry, instead of Google for your searches. So DuckDuckGo is an alternative to Google. It's free, obviously. It's just a search browser, or sorry, a search engine, but it does not track you. Meaning that when you look up for a washing machine is not going to show up on your Instagram feed. You know, like they're not tracking your search history, and they're not selling your data and all the things. Now, it is not as fine point accurate as Google, but like 85 to 90% of the time, it'll get you the answer you're looking for. So if you're like, you know, if you're one of those people who like types in Netflix on Google, just to open Netflix, or like really quick Wikipedia for, you know, whoever you want to find out about, this is going to get you there most of the time. Now, if you're looking for a specific answer to if I have a problem with Serato and I'm like, oh, Serato not booting, whatever, I'm going to use Google because I want their search engine capabilities. But this is a great way. You can set it as the default, and it's like, it's going to protect your personal data and your privacy. I don't see why you wouldn't use it. It's when you can easily go to Google when you need to. It's a great, very simple thing. And then password managers. So rather than having, you know, Safari uses keychain, Google saves your password, Firefox saves your password, you can get a third-party app that will monitor your apps in the browsers and save them in their own database, and then it becomes more portable. So if you want to move from Firefox to Safari, or you get a browser through your VPN on your phone, if you have a password manager, you're not locked into the ecosystem of one particular browser. So this is, again, they are paid, usually sometimes subscription, sometimes one. There's a couple of them out there. I use 1Password. It's one of those things that like I put off forever. I knew about it and I was like, oh, I don't want to have to redo all my passwords, all these things. Finally, when I use it, I was like, man, this thing rules. It makes my life easier. You only have to know 1Password. I can't recommend it enough. And it's very easy to set up. Now, this is something that I've come up with myself, and it's an easy tip, and I will explain it. And it has made my life easier and my online security more secure, meaning you have a system, like a formula, and here's mine, and you can easily adopt it and change these words. So having a word, you have two different words, one for unsecure things and one for very secure things. So like all your social media, your email, your bank, your purchases through Amazon, eBay, that's the secure one. And then a different word that is unsecure, meaning if you're checking out, if you're signing up for a free acapella website or whatever it is, you're signing up for some crap that you're like, I don't want to give the same word that I'm using on my bank, right? So you have two levels of word, one string of numbers, whatever they are, you choose your number, and then a modifier for every website. So if my word is pinstripe, my numbers is 478, and my modifier is dependent on the website. If my secure word is pinstripe, my Gmail might be pinstripe 478 mail, or Gmail, or GM. You change them when you have to change your password, you just change the modifier. You never have to mess with these two prefixes. Then years later, you go to a site and you're like, oh, this site was secure. Like you can kind of gauge yourself and know how you would have handled it. And you can instantly know the first bit. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Like it's just a system to follow that you can like easily get yourself out of that. Oh man, I can't remember I have so many passwords. Like if you come up with a formula, and this is one that's worked for me, of having two different levels, a number string and a modifier, then you only have to change one thing about your password, which is the modifier. You don't have to change your whole system. So that is that. At this point, I just wanted to pass it off to Brett B. I kind of covered a lot of the tech stuff.
Real quick, there's a few questions. I mean, hold on, another question just popped up. Yeah, before we go to Brett, opinions on partitioning your hard drive on your DJ laptop? You want to touch
as far
on
as
that?
like putting Windows on it?
It was anonymous. I don't know if they meant like splitting the hard drive, or I don't think it's Windows. I guess it's just like
Yeah, I mean, the only reason I would partition my hard drive is to put Windows on it, and I definitely wouldn't do that anymore because that's from like boot camp days. I would just get a virtual machine running in VMware or Parallels.
Right.
I can't imagine a situation where you would want to partition your drive. Personally, I don't even recommend replacing your CD drive with the hard drive. I know a lot of people like to do that to get more storage, but I know that also Apple's hardware is expecting to see an optical drive on that port, not a hard drive. So like putting a hard drive on that port is because they have such a tight lock over what the system is expecting and what the hardware they're providing, altering that configuration is dangerous for a performance laptop. So no, I can't come up with a reason you would want to partition. I mean, just get another hard drive if you need to like experiment on something.
Right. And then another question: how full would your
That's a great
could your
question.
hard drive be to operate properly? Like,
I would never really be comfortable with it over 90%. So if you have a 500 gig, if it drops, 500 gig, once it started approaching 30 gigs, I'd be like pretty stressed.
300, you
Like
said?
no, like if it started over 90%. So 500 gig, you should leave 50. There's some wiggle room there. But once you get to 30, you're in danger of like the computer could cache files and fill up without you knowing. You take some photos on a vacation and you're syncing with iCloud, and now there's pictures and you're just not giving it enough room. So that is a great question. I would always leave 10% and definitely don't let it go below 5%.
Copy. Yeah, that's it for questions right now. Hold on. The chat is popping. I guess it's just a personal question. They're asking if you change your password every few months.
I I should, but no, I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, like I change maybe once a year, and I only change a couple of them, like maybe my bank and PayPal, financial stuff, and like email stuff. And then like I said, all you have to do is remember the modifier. I already know the other words. The other words aren't going anywhere unless you're compromised. In which case, as long as you have the system, you can just change the front word and just go with that from then on. It just keeps you kind of parsed. I guess here's another one I could clarify easily is the difference between processor, RAM, and hard drive space. A big misconception is people saying, oh, my hard drive's full, my computer's running slow. Think about those three specs as like a work desk. The processor speed is how much coffee the guy at the desk is drinking. It's how fast you can work. The RAM is how big your desk is. So you can lay out, you're like, oh, I'm going to open this file and this picture, and I'm going to do this. And like, you have enough room to move. And the hard drive is like your filing cabinet, it's storage. So filling your hard drive doesn't make your computer run slow. It would make searching for a file take longer, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Brett, what am I missing here?
Just to everyone real quick, if you don't notice, there is a chat going on. Some people are, kind of answering questions or giving tips, their own ways and whatnot. So if you're not checking the chat, take a look. There might be answer some of your questions or, tips or whatever.
We're gonna have an after session survey that's going to be built in to Zoom participants. We'll send it out. We'll put it on the social media afterwards so everyone watching can I would really appreciate the survey results. And it's actually going to include the information for all four of the panelists. So whether you want to opt into the stuff they're going to talk about. Right. Oh, we got some polls here, actually. I forgot. We got some polls. Let's run some polls here. Run the poll. There you go. What version are you guys running of macOS? Wow, this is awesome. Holy cow. All right, you guys down there in Yosemite, El Capitan, let's get you going. All right. All right, we got a pretty good idea here. I'm going to end the poll. We got other questions. Oh, it's almost complete, actually. You guys panelists, you guys can vote too.
I voted.
Hard vote, my man.
Somebody asked something, and I already know what the answer is, just so you can tell everybody. They want to know what your opinion is on internal solid state versus an external.
I mean, you should get internal solid state. It's going to make your
Is it,
computer run. It's literally going to make your computer run faster.
I'm sorry. It says keeping music on internal versus an external.
I personally would go internal because it's just like instant access is right there. There's less issues with like changing over with the DJ stuff.
External, like at this day, is just such a.
It's a
I get like anxiety whenever I see an external, even like the ones that are taped to the back. I'm just like, no, like ever.
All right, I got another poll here. Have you ever upgraded your hardware in your laptop? This is so awesome watching people do it. All right, lots of DIYers out there. This is RAM or hard drive. All right. Brett, you can come off mute and just
So I would say, man, you covered like pretty much everything that I do as well, like hilariously down to the little things in your Finder settings. So I think you covered most of the bases. The only two things I would add, this first one is definitely a personal preference. I like to go into the keyboard settings and make it so that my F keys actually function as F keys, so I don't have to hold down the function key. Reason for that is when I'm DJing, especially in environments with a lot of bass, when I'm on turntables, I'm switching between internal mode and relative mode all the time. And so it just makes it that much easier to just be able to hit the F keys rather than holding down that function key to do it.
Oh, cool.
I don't know if you guys do the same thing or not, but
no, I haven't thought of that.
So yeah, that's that. And then the other thing that I do in addition to regular Time Machine backups, I use a program called Carbon Copy Cloner, and about once a month, honestly, I have an external hard drive that I carry to gigs with me. And the reason for that is, and this has actually happened to me once right before a New Year's Eve gig, is if worst case scenario, if my hard drive or my SSD inside my laptop dies or it won't boot for whatever reason, and I don't have time to reformat everything, I've got a bootable drive in my bag that I can just plug in, and worst case scenario, I'm like a month out of date with music.
That's great.
And, of course it's slower. So I would recommend, if you're going to do that, do an external SSD if you can afford it. They're fairly cheap these days, but yeah, man, it can be a real lifesaver. And, it's one of those things that you don't think you ever are going to need until you need it. So
if you want to put that on the chat, the name of the app.
Carbon Cut. We haven't got to Time Machine and backups and all that yet.
Oh,
so that's definitely a great point. Carbon Copy Cloner is great for doing like full. It's called an image, a disk image.
Can you get your ID again for this login?
I don't know what I'm hearing right now. I'm hearing somebody.
OP.
Okay, my bad.
All right, OP.
It's all good. Well, I'm going to do a couple things about Serato, and then I'm going to hand it over to OP. So, Brett, thank you. Those are great points. I'll pace myself to get OP to come back on video. But all right. So a couple things in Serato. I actually already had this picture of OP before I invited him. Oh, wait, you're in there twice?
Nah, so you see my name again. So Sonny, who's on the artist relations team, just jumped on. So you just heard him jumping in.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's him.
Cool.
What up, Sonny?
Okay, yeah. So these are some things that you can do in Serato that will make it run cleaner, and steps to make troubleshooting in a pinch easier. Again, I think you're in charge. So these are things that I would do to kind of take control of that situation. And then OP is going to speak on Serato after I kind of give this overview. So one thing you can do that I definitely recommend, and I've seen in OP's laptop as well, is renaming the Serato app with the version number. So when you download Serato Pro and you install it, you go and get info on it. And
Yo, C-Flow, real quick, man. They said the video is on me right now. They're not seeing you.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Coleman's better looking than me anyway.
Stop. Can you guys see? Yes, it's working? All right.
Yeah,
So,
OP still muted too, so.
Oh, no, yeah, I'm gonna just do it. So this was sort of the rundown here. And here's the things I'm gonna go over as far as making your Serato run cleaner and setting you up for success when troubleshooting. So renaming the Serato app, the application, you can change the version number at the end and you get info on it, on your version, and there it is, the version number. And you can just add it to the end. It asks for your admin password, you put it in, and then next time you install Serato, it doesn't overwrite. If you leave it as just Serato DJ Pro, it will overwrite it continuously. But if you change the version number, the next time it installs another one right after. And this can be helpful if you have a crash, you can go back instantly to a working version. And I've had that happen where, like, I got the new version, I was like, let's play out. It failed, and I instantly restarted, and I went back 2 versions to 2.1 or whatever, kept it going, no problems, can troubleshoot it later. So that sets you up for success. Another one that I want to talk about, this is really, really helpful. It's not in after 2.3, I think it was. It's no longer a thing, so you actually can go back and download the older ones. Inside the app, you go show package contents, resources. In this packages folder is all the drivers that are bundled with Serato. And what I would recommend is you copy them out and put them in your documents or your downloads or somewhere. Now you have them here, and you can go Serato drivers. And this has all the drivers that Serato would prompt you with. If you plugged a device in, it would go, hey, install this driver. You can install it without plugging in the hardware. You can get ahead of that. So you run these installers at home, you go to the club, boom, it's gonna connect. Oh, while I'm here, I just launched Serato in the background, but while I'm here, one other thing you can do that's very easy is in your music folder, this is your Serato database. So the Serato database folder, you can go here and compress it. This will zip it up, which basically is a snapshot of this moment. So here's the zip, and you can name it April 2020. And 4 months from now, if you're like, hey, my database, something's messed up, you can just rename this folder 1. Oh, my Serato open. And then unzip that, or you renamed it, unzip that. Oh, I did it right when I changed the name right when it launched. But I don't have anything in it anyway because it's a bare user. But you can restore just by unzipping that to this crate moment, and that's such an easy thing to do. You just compress it, rename the zip, whatever you want. That's going to help you, and unzip it in a time of need. Okay, another thing I want to show people that they don't use often is the file browser in Serato. So if I have songs, let's go to my downloads. I got this edit pack here from myself. Here's all the songs, right? And I can load them up, whatever. If I move them, this is if I'm not using iTunes, we're gonna get there. If I move them here in my DJ music, I'm gonna put this folder over here. Now I can't get to them. Oh no, they're broken. It doesn't work. So you go to the file browser, you navigate over to where you put them. So in music, DJ music, and I just grab the DJ music and I drop it on relocate lost files. It analyzes everything nested in that folder and connects the broken links. So you can move around the files on your computer. And again, you're in charge. This is a way, you have to be familiar with this if you're going to abandon iTunes, which I recommend strongly. And we're going to talk about that next. But getting off of iTunes means that you will then have, if you're used to iTunes, you don't have your own workflow for managing the destination of these files. So if you put them on your desktop in a folder called April, and then later you're sorting that and you move it off your desktop and you put it in this way, you can just you move it and then tell Serato, hey, this is where it is now. You don't have to mess around with re-adding the files to your crates and everything. The last thing that I really want to cover, because we talked about renaming the Serato app, the driver is located inside the app, the file browser, which makes it easy for setting up lost files, and zipping the Serato folder. The last thing I want to recommend strongly is restarting before every gig. If you're running an operating system after 10.12 Sierra, when you close your laptop lid and goes to sleep, when you open your laptop lid, the USB, the device on the Mac level initializes different than if it's a fresh boot with an open lid. So when I get to every gig, I open my computer, I unlock it with a password, and I restart. And while it's restarting, I get my headphones out, I hook up whatever else I need to hook up, and then it's time to boot up, and then you plug in and go. Sometimes even if I'm going back to back with someone and I have to close the lid, if I have to open the lid again, I'll restart my computer again, because I don't trust Apple's mismanagement of the USB. Because again, Mojave is written for 2018 computers and I have a 2015 computer, so like it doesn't quite match up in their book. And I've seen that be an issue. If you go to sleep and wake it up from sleep, I've seen it. So now I'm going to hand it off to OP.
Word. Thank
Oh,
you.
wait. Actually, I'm not yet. Oops. I wanted to go over Club Kit. Sorry, I jumped the gun. Let's see here. Club Kit, real quick, because I know a lot of people. Oh, now my mail's popping up. Whoa, this is crazy. Here, hold on. Click the wrong thing. All right. So, all right. Club Kit. First, oh, I gotta share it again. There we go. You guys can see that, yes? All right. Club Kit. It is a 4-step process to get it running. You have to buy the license, then you have to activate the license, and then you have to enable the product, and then you have to configure the hardware. Now, the problem in this, in my opinion, is that you have to have the hardware connected to enable the product. So if I don't have a DJM 900 at home, which I don't, but I want to use Club Kit and prepare my laptop at home, I don't have a way of doing that. So you can, in Serato, under My Serato, you load up and you look and it says, hey, you have Serato activated. You have all these expansion packs activated. Everything's activated. All right. Now I go to this, oh, I gotta move zoom there. I go to my settings, expansion packs. I can activate sampler, flip, play, but the one that I can't activate is Serato DVS. It doesn't show in this list until you're physically connected to the hardware. So if you're hesitant about running Club Kit, or you haven't, or you've tried and you're having a problem, know that when you plug it into USB, Serato DVS or DVS expansion pack, whatever it's called, shows up in this list, and then you can enable it. And then the settings come into play that allow you to configure the hardware and software. The last part being, which I actually don't think I have it on, oh, here it is. The last part being, you have to open the settings utility for the hardware that's connected, go to mixer output, and then you have to match these to whether you're on turntables or CDJs. So if you're on turntables and nothing but turntables, I switch all 4 to turntables because I'm just like, I'm not messing around. If I'm on CDJs, I switch all of them to line, all 4. And this you can do ahead of time, but like now it's set up to talk. And this is different than the settings over here when you're hooked up to the mixer that are turntable or CDJ mode. So there's actually 5, not just 4. There's so many barriers to entry when it comes to setting this up properly that I can understand why people have trouble with it. So I just wanted to very quickly go over that. And before I hand it off, I want to run a poll. There we go. Club Kit. Do you have Serato Club Kit? Do you use it and you think it's easy? Do you use it and you find it confusing? Or have you never used it?
And enabling is something that I had an issue with. Like I downloaded it and I was at a gig and and I'm really knowledgeable when it comes to Serato, and I was blown away, and I hit up so many people, and literally just to go into your settings, expansion packs, and like enabling it fixed everything. So it's
enabling the DVS is what allows you to control it. So like,
right.
If you don't have that hooked up, you could still play music out, but it's only half the equation, right?
Yeah, no, because you can't.
Yeah, so I'll jump into part of this here. So first off, the reason why you need the club kit is this, is that you have Serato enabled mixers. So if you buy a mixer that says Serato on it, it's enabled for you to plug in USB for it to work. Pioneer made the 900 Nexus 2, the 900 Nexus, and even the 850 not as Serato enabled mixers. They're just meant to be just regular mixers. So the club kit basically acts as like a plugin or a go-between between the mixer via USB to be able to work with Serato. The club kit is the combination of the Serato DJ license plus the DVS expansion kit, right? So having those two things together gets you the club kit. One thing that I'm actually fighting for at HQ, and we've had full discussions about this, I had it when I was there in December, is two things. One, that when you are inside of Serato DJ Pro, you're actually going to see that it says club kit instead of it saying vinyl CD control. We're working towards getting to that point. So please know that we're getting there. The second part to that is that, just as you were saying before, it's difficult to, or actually you can't even set it up if you're not connected to the hardware. 850, 900, 900 Nexus 2, even the Denon 1800 mixer and the 1850 that's about to come out, a few other mixers that are out there. So what we're fighting to do is to be able to have it to where you can have it set up in the program prior to you going in to set it up. I don't know when that's going to be, but fingers crossed that will be in future updates coming forward. Myself as a DJ, when I first set up Club Kit, I was in that same situation. You get to the spot, oh, I got this Club Kit thing, I can connect it. You go to connect, you're having problems trying to figure out what to turn on, and it's not enabled right, and so on and so forth. And you're in front of 100, 500,000 people, whatever the number is, and you're shook, and you don't ever want to be like that in front of an audience, right? So we've taken that experience from what we've had, plus the experience that other DJs have had, telling us that same thing and giving that back to HQ, and now they're taking that and trying to fix that. So fingers crossed, that's coming in a future update. We'll see have to see when that actually comes together and it happens.
Thank you. I just wanted to very quickly touch on HID mode, and then it is all you.
Yep.
So HID mode, Club Kit versus HID mode. They're two separate issues. They're two separate ideas, sorry. Think about it like this. One of your USBs has music going out of it, whether that is Club Kit, whether it's hooked up to the S9, whether it's a classic Serato box, a Denon box, a controller. One USB is handling music flowing out. HID mode handles music, or the control tone, the control coming in. So they're independent ideas. You can use HID mode without using Club Kit, and you can use Club Kit without using HID mode. It's just about how you want to control it. And HID mode requires no software, no expansion packs. There are no settings for it. It's actually been around since Scratch Live, and it is something that at the end, when I'm going to share, I've got a product as far as which USB device, or sorry, which USB hub I recommend. And I know OP's got his own hub that he recommends. And as far as connecting, HID mode is also can be confusing, but they're not to be, these ideas are separate and they're not to be confused with one another. So I see him walk out of frame, but it is his turn. Here he is.
Sorry, I was trying to find something real quick, but I'll continue on. So let me see here real quick. I'm going to show you a couple of things to kind of piggyback off of what was said before. And thank you, Cifo, again for doing this. There's a lot of great information, some stuff here too. So this is really dope.
My pleasure. Thanks for everyone viewing too.
I don't know if you can see my screen here, but this here is a SD card. A company called Transcend makes this. Is the Jet Drive Lite. Now the computer that he was talking about, that 2015 computer, on the right side of that computer, there's an SD card slot that's there. What I've done is that I've moved my Serato library onto my SD card, and that lives flat. There we go. Cool. That lives flat on the side of my computer. I don't have to take it out. This one here is 128 gigs, but the one I have on my DJ computer is 256. So I'm just super careful about the music that I have on my computer that I need to be able to play with. I have all my music kind of living on a master computer with the hard drive, 4 terabyte hard drive in iTunes, where I can organize folders and crates or folders in iTunes. And then I make crates onto this here. So it separates iTunes from this card here. And this just lives as folders with crates for Serato for me to DJ with. Now, you don't necessarily have to use this if you don't want to, but it's a great option if you want to have your DJ library on here, or if you want to keep the library on your computer and just have extra storage to be able to put miscellaneous stuff onto here. So if you're downloading, movies and so on and so forth, leave it off your hard drive and put it onto something like this. That way you have your computer just clean for the music that you need to play with when you're DJing out. So again, a company called Transcend makes this. This is the Jet Drive Lite. This is the 128, but it also comes in 256 as well. Should run you somewhere around like 99 bucks or so on Amazon. Get it from B&H as well.
I'm going to share a link for that product at the end. And it's actually, I think because of the pandemic, Amazon's out right now, but they're selling them used for even cheaper than that.
Yeah.
It's like 70 bucks for a 256.
Yeah, this literally changed my whole DJ life. Now, kind of to what was said before about having the external hard drive, I personally, this is my own self, people do what they need to do, but I got nervous having an external hard drive, in particular because if, something disconnects while you're playing or the cable goes bad, so on and so forth, you're literally stuck at a gig and you can't work with it because it having a problem. So having this piece just literally changed everything for me. And I've been good ever since. I've had mine in my computer, I think for about 4 or 5 years, and it's been straight. So again, another option for you to use. Thank you for talking about ClubKit in HID mode. I use it all the time when I'm in the club. I basically have 3 USB cables and a hub. So I'm on the new MacBook Pro 2019 computer. So I have this hub here, which is a USB-C hub, and it has 2 USB ports that are here that I can connect my CDJs to. The important thing about ClubKit and HID is this. With ClubKit, you always want to make sure that you're going from the mixer directly to your computer. You never want to have a go-between between the mixer and the computer. So the USB port that's on the left side of the 900 Nexus 2, there's A and B. If you're going from A, just go A straight to the computer. And then the HID mode for the CDJs, on the back of the CDJs is the USB ports, not at the top, but on the back. You can connect those to the hub, and then the hub go to the computer for to a different USB port. So that way, if anything happens in HID mode, because you're in internal mode with HID, if this gets pulled with the CDJs, the music will still continue to play directly from the mixer because you're still playing in internal mode. So you're gonna keep the CDJs on a hub, direct connection from the 900 Nexus 2 directly to your computer, and you should be good to go. All right. I am going to share my screen here. I'm going to walk through a couple of things inside of Serato. So let me jump in here real quick.
Hey, OP, if you want to share the model of the hub that you got.
Oh, yes, absolutely. This is, I'll type it into the chat in a couple of
minutes. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
I'm also going to share a bunch of product links in the follow-up email that everyone who registered gets. They're going to get a list of links that go on Amazon.
Okay, bet. So you should see my screen here. So I'm gonna go through a couple of things. So similar to what CFO was talking about before, you want to think about the operating system that you're using with your computer and how that relates to working with Serato DJ Pro, right? First and foremost, and I'm sorry to say this for anybody who's still on Scratch Live is dead. You need to let it go. It's an old product. That is also the same for the SL1 box and also the old 57 mixer. All those things are now past products, so we're not supporting those things anymore. So everything's now moved over to Serato DJ and Serato DJ Pro. With Pro, when you go to download it, you can come down here to the system requirements, and you can see here for the version of Serato DJ Pro that you're downloading, what operating system is meant to work with it, right? So here for the newest version, which is 2.3.4, which just came out, this works with Catalina, Mojave, and High Sierra. That doesn't mean that it's not going to work with Sierra or El Capitan or Yosemite, but Serato only tests the new versions with the last 3 operating systems that Apple makes. Apple technically only supports the last 3 operating systems that it makes for any software across the board. So it's not just Serato, but it's everything across the board, right? So Serato kind of has to follow what Apple does, unfortunately. So if you end up having, let's say, Sierra on your computer, It's a possibility that this will work at 2.3.4, but if there's any bug that happens while you're on Sierra, we won't be able to know it's happening because we haven't tested to make sure that it works with it, because again, we're following what Apple is doing as it goes forward, right? So again, important to kind of look and see what's happening here. You can also see here in terms of the other specs to work with Serato, what processors work with Serato for that version. Also knowing what the bit is for it. So kind of similar to what Ableton is, it had to go through in other programs. Because of Catalina, everything now is 64-bit going forward. So if you need to make sure, you need to make sure that your computer can handle 64-bit. If you're on an older computer that only handles 32-bit, then you might want to go back to some other operating systems to make sure that you're working with that and go with it. The hard drive space, just as people were saying before, and C-Flow was saying, you want to make sure you have like 10% of free hard drive space on your computer, not only for Serato to work, but for all of your computer to work in general. Serato needs at least 5 gigs in order for it to work. I've gotten calls from people who've literally been in the club, on stage at a festival, and been like, yo, my Serato's not booting up. We're trying to figure out what the problems are. And it comes down to the point where we ask, oh, well, how much free space do you have on your hard drive? And they look and they say, oh, I got like, about a gig left of space. That is like a complete no. You never want to be in that position, because basically what's happening at that point in time is your computer's trying to fight to stay alive, right? So as it's fighting to stay alive, it's trying to take things out that are going to be taking up a lot of energy on the computer, and also trying to preserve hard drive space. I've seen it in the past where people have literally lost files because the computer is basically kind of getting rid of files to try to stay alive as it's going along, right, using Serato. So you want to, again, make sure you have at least 5 gigs of hard drive space available to be able to work with. As you're going down, you can go down here to the downloads archive. And in the downloads archive, you can find all the previous versions of Serato DJ Pro and Serato DJ all here. So if you need to get any of those, you can go to the download and download it and make it happen. Also here are the release notes. So for each of those versions, you can see, okay, what does this, what changes have been made in the program, and also what new pieces of gear that it supports. Part of the reason why we have so many point versions that come out is because we have so many different partners, Pioneer, Rain, Denon, Akai, so on and so forth, that make different products. And we always have to make sure that the new versions work with the new product. So for example, with this new one that's here now, 2.3.4, we've added in support for the XDJ XZ controller, the DJ 202, the Prime 4, the SC5000M, and now the new Rain 70 mixer as well. So now with 2.3.4, if you bought any of those products, everything will work and you'll be good to go, right? Another thing that's super important about that, especially as you start getting to new controllers, when companies make new controllers and or mixers, they're making them also following the operating systems that are current with Apple. So for example, if I go over here to the DDJ 1000 SRT, which is one of my favorite controllers that's out now, this controller is working with Catalina, Mojave, and High Sierra. If you're on a operating system that's below any of these, you're not gonna be able to use that controller. So I've seen it to where people have literally rolled up to the club, they're still on Sierra or even Mavericks, for example, and they go to plug up to the 1000 SRT, it won't work. I get the phone call at like 1:30 in the morning, yo, I can't connect to the controller, I can't play, I'm not gonna make my money tonight. Reason being why is because they're not set up to be working with these operating systems with that new controller, right? So kind of similar to what C-Flow was saying before, check your computer, see what the age of the computer is, and then see what the best operating system is to work with. But you ideally want to be somewhere in this range, if at all possible. My own personal, I'm still on Mojave, and I'm not planning on moving from there anytime soon. But if you do move to Catalina, there's some steps that you need to take to make sure all the things are working right. So the next step with that is this. For High Sierra, Mojave, and Catalina, Apple has changed the way that the security privacy settings work for Serato and also for a number of other different programs as well. So for example, when you install a driver for High Sierra, Mojave, or Catalina, you wanna make sure as you're installing the driver that you go to the system security and privacy settings and the system preferences, And you need to make sure that you allow whatever driver it is that you're installing to be installed, right? If you don't press allow right here, what's going to happen is that the installation is going to continue on and finish, but the driver won't talk to Serato until you go back and allow for this to happen. This is a super, super important point, because I get the phone calls all the time from people saying, I installed the driver.
This is a big pain in the ass. That's Apple locking you out because, like I said, you're in charge, but they think they're in charge, and it's just screwing us over.
Yeah, yeah. So please make sure that you go here to allow for the driver to be installed. And this is not only just for DJ stuff, but like, for example, let's say that you buy a printer and you need to use that printer to print, whatever invoices out, or so on and so forth for your gigs. If you don't allow for the printer driver to be installed here, the printer won't even work, right? So you need to make sure for any driver that you install into the computer that you go through this process with the allow, and you'll be good to go, right? Okay, cool. The second part is that when using Serato in particular for Mojave and Catalina, you need to make sure that you give access to the microphone, in the system preferences. So if you see this pop up here, you need to go to the security and privacy settings, and under privacy, you want to go to microphone and make sure that Serato DJ Pro is checked on. If this is not checked on, what's going to happen is, let's say you plug into your S9, the decks will show, but you won't get any motion happening with the decks, and no audio will come out. Once you turn this on, this gets everything running right, and you get audio coming through. My suggestion also is to make sure that you go down to the tab right below where it says microphone and go to accessibility, and make sure that Serato DJ Pro is also checked on there too. I've seen times where the microphone's been checked, but accessibility hasn't, and people have had problems. So make sure you go to accessibility and check on Serato DJ Pro, and then you should be good to go and straight. The next thing is this. If you do go to Catalina and you're using iTunes, you want to make sure that you're using the iTunes app, or the music app that's in iTunes. And you want to make sure that you follow these steps to make sure that all of your music that was in iTunes previous is going to show up in the music app, right?
I'm going to cut you off right there because I'm hard recommending against iTunes in general. I'm just trying to get these DJs off iTunes.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
I'm so glad that Serato has a solution, and this is very helpful information. But if you're watching this, don't even bother with iTunes. We're getting there next. It's literally the next section after this.
Yeah, yeah. I personally don't use iTunes in my DJ setup, but again, if you don't listen to C-Flow and take his advice, and you still want to stay with iTunes and you're on Catalina, you need to make sure you follow this in order for it to work and to be good to go, right? If you're on a new computer that has USB-C ports, this is the best cable that you want to get. This is the DJ Tech Tools Chroma cable. I have a gang load of these. They're super strong, they're fast, and they've worked better than like kind of basic USB-C cables that I've gotten from like Amazon or some cheaper places like that. You can get these, they're $14.99, and they come in various colors as well. So if you want to steeze out and get your color flavors on, you can do that real easy here, no problem. Now, one thing that's super important when you're connecting to hardware, you want to make sure that not only you have the right drivers, but you also want to make sure that the hardware that you're connected to is updated with the firmware. Firmware fixes bugs that might be happening with the hardware. For example, when I first bought my S9, this is years ago when it first came out, I bought it and I didn't update the firmware. I took the S9 with me to a gig. I set it up, I started playing, and in the middle of me playing, everything shut down on me, and I couldn't tell what was going on. I later found out that the firmware was old on the S9, which was causing a bug with Serato, which caused the crash to happen. Once I updated the firmware, everything was good to go, and I was straight. So again, you want to make sure that you're looking on the manufacturer's website, not the Serato website, but the manufacturer's website, to make sure that if they have a firmware update, that you update to whatever the newest firmware is to make sure that's working right. It fixes any bugs that are happening, so on and so forth. There's a thing that I've seen for some DJs that you might have come into, a thing called mega latency, to where if you go to scratch, Serato moves like maybe like a second or 2 or 3 afterwards, right? A lot of times that's because of the fact that the hardware that you're using has an older firmware that has a bug which is causing the mega latency. When you update that firmware, it fixes that problem, and then you don't have that mega latency anymore. So again, remember, make sure you look to see about the firmware update for whatever hardware that you're using for any of the different manufacturers as you're going along, right? Firmware is also super important for the CDJs as well. So it's not just the mixers, but it's the CDJs and it's also the DJ controllers that you're using as well. Again, the manufacturers make the updates for anything that's happening that's a bug. They'll fix it on all the different hardware across the board, right? Again, we talked about the operating system stuff that you want to be careful about. For the RAIN products, this is super, super, super important. So technically, the products that are supported by RAIN right now are the 70, the 12s, the SL4, the 72, and the, which one is it? The MP 2015 rotary mixer. If you're on a 62, 61, 64, 68, SL2, SL3, those are now old products that they're not supporting anymore. Not supporting anymore basically means that they're not updating the drivers from the point that they made them wherever they didn't make them last. They're done from where they are, right? So they technically should work, but if you run into a problem, you have to figure out how to deal with it as it's left as it is, right? So with all the newer ones, the 70, the 72, and the MP 2015, those are all what we call class compliant drivers, meaning that you don't have to install a driver in order for it to work. It reads off the Apple core audio device that's inside the computer, right? So don't worry about plugging in to get the drivers working. You plug up, it's gonna see, it's gonna run, and you're gonna be good to go. If you're on an SL2, SL3, 62, 64, 68, so on and so forth, then you might need to go to the support page here. Actually, pardon me, I should go to this one here and find some of the legacy products, the legacy RAIN products. So when you click here, this will take you to find any of those old drivers for mixers and so on and so forth, right? So let's go to 62 here. And the thing with the RAIN drivers, which is super important, is that you want to make sure that you install both of the drivers, the driver that's for El Capitan and below, sorry, pardon me, for Yosemite and below, and the one for El Capitan and above. They need to work in sequence. I've seen it where people have just installed one or the other, and they haven't been able to connect onto that piece of kit that they're working with. So for example, here, you have the 62 core audio driver from macOS 10.7.5 through 10.10.5. That's the first one. And then you have the second one, which is the core audio driver from macOS 10.11.4 and above. So what you want to do is you want to download the first one, install it, and then go back and download the second one and install it. If you're on High Sierra, so actually Mojave or Catalina, you have to make sure you go to that security privacy setting thing and make sure you allow for those drivers to be installed. If you don't do that,
it's while it's installing. And if you have security pane pulled up, it actually won't show you. So you have to be out, you have to have system preferences open, but outside of security. And then you have to go in while it's installing, but not be in when the message pops up. It's actually insane.
Yeah, it's a little crazy, right?
Yo, OP, I don't know if we're gonna have time for the Serato. Yeah, because we got I still got a couple more things on iTunes, and we got Ableton as well.
Okay, not a problem at all. Just real quick, back to that OS thing that people were asking about before, where they can find the older OSs. If you do a search, I just did one here, just looking for High Sierra OS download, you can go to the support page on the Apple page, and you can scroll down, and you can get the download for High Sierra here, which is going to take you to the Apple store and get it.
And I'm going to send that out too in the follow-up email. That's just the links for the High Sierra and Mojave.
That's right. That's right. Cool. And last thing as well, there's streaming for Serato DJ Pro in SoundCloud and also in Tidal as well, right? You need to be online in order to be able to use both of these. And you also have to have accounts with them. For SoundCloud, you need to have a SoundCloud Go Plus account. This is not a regular SoundCloud account. So you pay $9.99 a month for it, and you have access to stream millions of songs from SoundCloud straight through Serato, easy, no problem. You also have Tidal, which again is a $9.99 a month subscription, and you can download, you can stream those songs straight through Tidal. You need to be online for both of these. There's no offline downloading as of the moment for either one of these platforms. Hopefully that comes in the future. But right now you can go straight streaming on it. I use this at home a lot when I'm playing, If I want to be able to find songs and play, I can have title crates that are set up, like things, they show up automatically. Your cue points and your loops save on those title tracks. So when you pull them back up again, all that information shows up and you're good to go. You can use this in a club. I've used it several times and it's saving for like songs that I didn't have that people were requesting, and I was able to find them in title very quickly. It's a great thing. But what I will say is this: you need to test to make sure that the Wi-Fi is strong in the venue that you're working with before using this. I would not use this if you have 5,000 people in the club and they're all on the Wi-Fi doing Instagram Live at the same time. It's not a good look, right? But if you're in a spot and the Wi-Fi is good and you know that you have a secure connection, go ahead and rock with it. It's possible that you can tether from your phone to use it as well. But again, just make sure that your connection is good tethering and you can have access to a bunch of music. I like this in particular because there might be music that I don't want to keep on my computer, but I know I might need to play for certain private events and functions and so on and so forth, right? So if I'm doing a private gig and I'm getting paid a bunch of money to play some music I might not necessarily want to play in the club, I can make a playlist inside a title. As long as I'm connected to the internet or online, I can play those songs and never have to have those songs populate my actual computer and cause up a bunch of clunk and space taking up. I can do it all through title and be good to go. So again, all that stuff is here. The last thing, two things I'll talk about, there's Serato Play. That's an expansion pack that's available. You can use Serato in its full version without being connected to any hardware. If you look on the website, you can find information on it. It's on sale, or pardon me, it's for sale at $29 right now, and you can buy that as an expansion pack. I don't know if we're going to have a sale on that anytime soon, but just keep on checking the social media to see what's going to happen with that. There might be something in the future. We'll see what happens. And the last thing is Serato Studio, which hopefully we can do another session with some people separate from this.
So what we're going to do is we're going to, in the survey, it has opt-in to send along attendees emails to you, to Kaz, to Nick, and to Brett. If they opt in, then you'll have their email and we can do a Zoom about Serato Studio.
Perfect. Serato Studio is our new beat making and DJ edit software. It's super easy to use, super fast. And I think it's been a lot of fun for you guys to use. So yeah, I'll make sure that if you opt into it, I'll hit you up and we'll set some time up to go over it and show you what it does. All right. So if any questions, please feel free to hit me up. Let me know what's good.
Thank you, OP, the master. Man, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So I'm going to bring it back to mine on the screen share.
You wanna, there's a few Serato questions on here. I know you saw them.
Oh yeah. You know, we're running pretty low on time, so I want to power through and then we'll do a Q&A at the end.
All right, no problem.
Okay. So yeah, so let's go over why iTunes, that DJ should get off of it, and then also how to continue using it to help you with your management of your library. So really think about iTunes and Serato as two separate databases. And if you are relying on iTunes as your database, you're first of all not letting Serato do its thing and giving it the full power of all the database management tools it has. Like I showed you the files moving around and everything, but iTunes actually kind of locks up your ID3 tags and all sorts of different things that make it harder to use your own stuff. Like, yes, there's definite benefits to some of the library management tools, but you can continue to do those and not integrate the two, and I'll show you how. So iTunes is a tool. What you can do is create a crate. I don't have, again, I set up a new account on this computer, so that I don't have much to show you, but let me just toss these files out. So I have nothing right now in my Serato. I'm going to close Serato. I'm going to open iTunes. Now, some configuration tips in iTunes right away. The first thing I would do when you get iTunes to make this break, go to Preferences, go to Advanced, and turn off Copy Files to the iTunes Media folder. If you have this on and you add songs to iTunes, it will duplicate the file into its own database. And if you continue to hang on to the old one, then you're doubling the space on your computer, and then down the line, now you don't know which one and all these problems. So, and I'm gonna recommend, like I said, you're in charge. We're gonna tell these files where to go. In order to turn this off, you just go in here to Advanced, turn it off. We're also gonna wanna turn on Share iTunes XML with other applications. This will allow Serato and other programs I'm about to show you help with library management, even though we're gonna divorce the two. So turn both those on, and now iTunes will not duplicate files you add. I'm gonna make a new playlist, and I'm gonna dump in that same crate here. So now these songs are in my iTunes library, right? Now with Serato closed and iTunes open, if I quit this, iTunes is now saving the database. My computer's running a little slow because Zoom is going crazy. I can hear the fans going in pretty heavy. But when iTunes decides to quit, it will save the database. And then when we open Serato, if the iTunes is checked, then Serato will be able to see the iTunes library. But if I make changes to the ID3 information, or if I delete a file and it's moved, Serato gets confused. Anything that's in the iTunes library, wow, iTunes is really just locked up on me. That's a testament to this piece of shit program. So let me try to open it again and see if, yeah, it didn't even know how to hang with those files. Great. So let's try again. You can see why, even with an empty library, I would recommend against this program as your DJ solution. Beautiful. Either that or just not going to happen. All right, well, doesn't look like I'm going to be able to show you too much about iTunes here, but I'm going to quit it again because it does not look like it wants to behave. But we can basically, I can show you even without it. So in Serato, you go in and you uncheck the library, but before you do that, you can add all the songs that are in iTunes into its own crate. So you open up iTunes in Serato. Oh wow, either that or my computer is just grinding to a halt. It might be just too much right now with the stream. Yeah, I think it might be too heavy here. Well, all right. Well, you could add all the songs in your iTunes library in Serato to its own crate. And then when you turn off the iTunes setting, Serato will still remember all those songs. So if they're in crates, then when you decide to eventually move them, you can use that file relocation and it will still keep all your database without rebuilding. The reason I wanted to show you iTunes and unfortunately cannot, let me close disk inventory and Brave, I guess. Let's see if I can get this going. Basically, there's this guy, Doug, who I'm gonna plug here. Doug's Apple scripts for iTunes that someone had asked in the Q&A, some file management, ID3 management tools. This guy writes scripts that go through your iTunes. They use iTunes as the like base application, and we'll go through and analyze an insane amount of stuff. And you can create scripts that take the ID3 information and turn it into file names, or take the file names like the MP3 in Finder and take that data and put it in the ID3 information. You can go through and automatically add things to any ID3 field, you know? Oh, here, Serato's coming up. My computer's struggling. So here we go. Let's put the songs back. Oh yeah, iTunes library. Okay. So what I'm saying is you would go here to iTunes, which my library is empty right now, but you would select them all and drag them into their own crate, and they would have little iTunes logos next to all this. And then when you select all your iTunes, put them in its own crate, you go here to library and uncheck show iTunes. But if they're in a Serato crate, Serato knows about the song, so you're not going to lose anything. Serato's going to know where all the music is. And then you can use the file and you can change the ID3, and iTunes is not going to interrupt that process. Now, when they're divorced like this, you can continue using iTunes as a tool with these iTunes scripts. Here's just a few of them that I use all the time. You can download these on DougScript.com. DougScripts.com. I'll put that in the follow-up email. And here you can add text to the end of a track name. This is when I'm making edits and I want to put C-Flow edit at the end of all of them. I can just highlight a playlist. You put the files in iTunes, you highlight the playlist, you run this script, you double click it, it'll open script editor. And as long as you're in iTunes and you select them all in iTunes, and then you hit this play button, it'll go over to iTunes and it'll work. and it'll say, hey, what do you want to add to the end? And you type in what you want to add to the end. Artist name corrector. This is if like the ID3 says artist dash name in the title of the song, it will peel artist out and put it in the artist tag. And these are just the ones I've downloaded. He's got hundreds of these scripts. File names to song names. If the file says Drake the motto.mp3, it would take Drake and put in the artist and the motto and put it in the song. File renamer does the opposite. It changes the name in Finder, which would then confuse Serato. So you got to be very aware of like your order of operations. Like if you're going to be doing this to a bunch of files, add them to Serato last after you make changes to file names, because file names will confuse it. Search and replace tag. This is like if a website has, let's say directmusicservice.com was in the file and I just want to say DMS, this will search all the titles or whatever. I could say artist if I want. Search directmusicservice.com and change to DMS or whatever I set it to. This is just a script and it all works in iTunes. And then proper English title capitalization just puts like, the first capital letter on the whole sentence. I found that useful before. Now, Doug also makes this program called Dupin, and this is for finding duplicate files. So if you want to add all the songs into iTunes, again, temporarily, so you can run these programs, you put all the songs in iTunes, and then Dupin, this is $15. You do have to pay for this. You can go to the library and say, hey, tighten up the criteria all the way. Like this is literally duplicates down to the file name. Now, if your file name was Drake the Motto and Drake the Motto 2, it wouldn't find those as duplicates. So you can search first, and let's say it didn't find anything because the names are different or whatever, for whatever reason, you can start loosening up these parameters, right? Disc and track number might not be in some of the files that are the same. You have the same song, but like it's up to you to say how tight or how loose you want the search to be. When you hit get dupes, it shows you all the files that match the criteria. And then you click filter, you select them and you click filter, and it has a very similar, I can't show you because I don't have anything in iTunes, but this program allows you to then filter which is the keeper file of the two. Personally, I usually go with date modified. So if I have 5 versions of a song, I usually want to save the one I've put a cue point in last or change the loop on last, right? Like the most recently modified version. And then it will toss the rest, and you can have it move them to a separate folder that you can look at later. You can have it moved to the trash. You can have it moved to the trash and delete the trash. You can have it just spit back a text document that's just a print. Here's your dupes, in case you wanted to do that before actually moving forward. It would be tedious to look through, but you can, this program's super powerful for solving a problem. I know a lot of people have a question about that. So again, that's dougscripts.com. The app is Dupin. And what I was trying to say here in my presentation is there is a difference between command delete and command option shift delete in iTunes. If you have a song in a playlist and you hit command delete, it will delete it out of iTunes playlist, but not the library. But if you're in your playlist, and again, you're using playlists just like crates to sort of use these temporary, you put stuff in iTunes, you're taking it out of iTunes because you don't want Serato to get upset with it. You highlight the songs and hit command option shift delete, and it will remove it from the iTunes library, but it will not toss the file in the trash as long as that file doesn't live inside of iTunes nested folder. So I just want to go over that real quick. And as we move forward, I'm going to talk about the difference in cloud services backing up and all of that. So I have to say, I've seen so many different people using so many different options for backing up that I have to say back up with Time Machine. Time Machine is Apple's built-in backup software solution. And there's actually 2 sides of it. There's a side that saves files out to a hard drive to back up, and there's a side that recovers them. I do not use the recovery portion because I find it confusing and I find it trying to be in charge. I want to be in charge. I don't want it to do it for me. So I use it to back up. And what I mean by that is all you do, it's this simple. You connect a hard drive. In Time Machine, you select the drive and then you click backup now. It's one button. You don't have to mess around with highlighting all your files and dragging them off your computer. And then the next time you back up, you have to delete those files off the hard drive and do it again. It takes all these hours and you're thinking way too hard. The way Time Machine works is the first time you run it, it backs up everything that's on your computer in that moment. And then as you make changes, let's say you move files, you rename them, you get some new files, you put in cue points and loops and other files, it knows the next time you hook up your computer, all the differences from the last backup, and it only backs up the changes in your whole database. So when you run it the first time, it takes like 3, 4, or 5 hours, and you run it the second time, it takes 5 to 10 minutes. And it's one click. Everyone who's not using this is doing way too much. You're thinking too hard, you're making it more difficult on yourself, and you're not fully backing up your computer. You're just backing up your music. This will back up everything in your computer, including the settings. So if something goes corrupt down the line, you're like, oh, I want to go back to this moment. We can do that, and we do that by hand. So I recommend getting a 2 terabyte external hard drive. They're running $65 on Amazon right now. The 4 terabyte of the same hard drive is $100. And if you really are wanting to if you consider yourself professional or you're super worried about your backups, which you should be worried about your data. You would want to do an offsite backup as well, meaning you get 2 hard drives. You have one in the house, you have one elsewhere at your friends, at your parents, somewhere offsite. Because if there's a disaster and your, God forbid, your apartment burns down, you're going to lose the data that's on site. Personally, I leave a hard drive at my mom's house, and every time I visit, I just do a backup there. And so now I've got one offsite and one onsite. This is a no-brainer. If you're not doing Time Machine, you are working way too hard on your backups, and it's really difficult to help people who don't do this, and it's built into the system. So please do it. It's gonna save you. It's gonna save you. Now there is a difference between backing up and syncing, and a lot of people get this confused, and it is confusing. The way they rolled out iCloud and talked about iCloud backups, right? Like all these things, it is intentionally confusing. And I don't know why they've been so unclear. So think about this. iCloud is for syncing files on personal devices. It'll sync your contacts, it'll sync your photos, and it is a form of backing up that data, but just by syncing it between the stuff that you own. Think about it as private and personal. Dropbox is for sharing files, and you can share files between your own devices or with your friends, or it's just a more public. So think about iCloud as private, Dropbox as public. And you can share files between your own computers. I use it all the time just to save a photo to Dropbox on my phone, and then it's on my computer instead of airdropping if I'm not near it, whatever. One thing I do want to clarify for all DJs who use Dropbox to share files with each other is there's a difference between inviting someone to a shared folder and sending someone the link to that shared folder. And if you invite someone to a shared folder, they can disrupt the files for everyone else in that share. Versus if you send out the link, they can access the files, but they can't change them, meaning I don't understand these Dropboxes that have 35 DJs in it. It just doesn't make sense to me because one person can drag the wrong file and delete it for everyone else. On my edit site, djcflow.com/edits, all of my stuff's on Dropbox on links. I generate a link, I put it out there, everyone has access, I can change them, no one can screw it up. And I advise everybody to move over to links because it's just cleaner. You're not bogging people down with all these crazy invites and taking up hard drive room on their computer when you change something. It's too much. Now, neither of these services, iCloud or Dropbox, backs up your computer. So just because you have one or the other does not mean you're backed up. You should be doing Time Machine to back up on site, but if you want an internet backup, which is a smart idea as well, it's a form of offsite. That's what this last logo is, Backblaze. And all of these services are different and all of these services are paid, and it is worth it to have all of these paid services if you use them that way. iCloud is for the pro plan is $3 a month, and it can cover what's in your phone. That is a no-brainer. If you buy the bigger package, it syncs all your stuff and it does back up your photos. Now, going back to what I was talking about in the system preference pane about desktop and documents folder, that's iCloud trying to encroach on Dropbox's business, which is why we want to turn it off, because we want to be in charge of how these things are used. So think about Backblaze as your online time machine. It's a one-way, just like Time Machine. We just want to save with it, and think about it as like an absolute doomsday. But it's super cheap. It's like $5 or $6 a month when you buy a year or two, and it's like if you have important files and you want an online version, that's the way to do it. Very easy to set up. And yeah, I guess just think about private, public, and this last one is Time Machine, and then we're on to Nick Bike.
Yep. Check. You hear me?
Yes. So excited
All
to
right.
have you.
Word. I'm just going to show my screen
I'm going to
here.
launch a poll about Time Machine. Oh, I love these results so far. We got heavy people saying that they're doing it. Oh, that makes me so happy. The last thing I want to say is I got something to tease. I got a release at the very end of this that I'm saving on to one last piece of info. So don't
If you
go
hang on,
anywhere.
if you hang on till the end, you get the prize.
Oh yeah, don't go anywhere. In fact, we got like 10 slots in the now opened up. So tell your friends to get on. This one's going to be worth it. All right, we're going to wrap up the poll, but this looks really good. We got 70% of you guys said that you are using Time Machine. 25% of you are going to start using Time Machine because you're not doing it that way. And the other people saying they don't back up, I fear for you daily. So please consider buying a hard drive and doing it. And even those who are backing up another way, I'm telling you that get on Time Machine. Nick Bike, everyone.
All right. I'm going to share my screen here. Just desktop, Coleman.
Yes, desktop one.
Yeah. Okay. Can we see things here?
Yep.
Yes.
You see my screen? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to touch on the preferences window in Ableton Live 10 because there's a few settings in there that I often see new users or just people who kind of forget that they exist, or even some people will send me like edits or something and I can notice something in their session that you can just tighten things up a bit or just customize it to make it more like friendly and more intuitive and efficient for you to use. So I'm going to pop into Live's Preferences tab here. And I'm just going to go run down all the tabs here. There's a lot of stuff that you don't necessarily need to touch or that I have never needed to touch. So I'm not going to touch on those, but just what I have noticed. And there are some that are preferences. So some of are just kind of whatever you feel works for you. So the zoom display is a very useful thing to look at. So you can see how it's changing my screen in the background. I believe the default is maybe 90%. Obviously, depending on how big your screen is, if you have a big iMac or external screens, zooming out can be really effective with seeing a lot more of your information. I usually have mine somewhere between 70 and 80, kind of depending on what session I'm working on. For clip colors, it depends on kind of what I'm doing. Usually, I like to keep by default having the same track color because I end up often changing them anyway within sessions, but I mean, that's a preference thing. So play around with that to see how you like that. Changing your color theme, I like a darker one just because like if you're sitting up at night and you don't want like this white overlay basically waking you up. So also play around with the brightness, very, very effective. If you're outside working, you can crank your brightness like that much extra outside of regular Mac settings, and playing around with the color settings can just like kind of enhance your overall experience, especially if you're working for like 2, 3, 4, 5+ hours in Ableton. Hopping over to audio, input and output is just going to obviously depend on what you have plugged in and out of your computer. Your buffer size here, basically, if you're recording and you're inputting audio or MIDI information, there's just like a certain time frame that your computer needs to process that input. So running at a very low buffer rate may increase the reaction time of, like, if I play a note on a keyboard and it showing up almost instantly within Ableton. If you need a powerful computer or a more powerful computer to run something like that. So if you start noticing like Ableton's glitching out or something, you might have to toggle your buffer size or your driver error settings. So that's just something you need to play around with if that becomes an issue, or if you're doing that kind of thing. MIDI, I mean, I don't plug in a lot, so I can't really say too much on that. But for the most part, most things are kind of just like plug and go. Jumping to plugins here. A useful thing, if you if you have Ableton open, you got a session open, and you install a new plugin, say like countless times that I've shared sessions with friends, and I notice that a plugin I don't have, say I go get it, and I don't want to shut the session down after I install it, because to refresh it, you can install it and then you just hit rescan plugins, and that will refresh the folders that you have selected, and then it will pop up in your plugins folder. Very easy fix. This is a big panel here. There's a lot of things you can change on. Often people ask about like WAV and AIF. What's the difference? It's a Windows Mac thing. The upside of AIF is that you can write tag information to it. So, I mean, if you're just recording in Ableton, I don't know if you're writing tag information and attaching artwork and stuff. So they do the exact same thing. It's kind of your pick. Let's see what else here. Warping and fading. These warping short, long, and default, these are kind of your pick. I would leave this on auto because on short samples, I know sometimes some of you that use Ableton often might have experience. If you drop in like a 30-second clip, Ableton will loop it, and it puts that warp marker at the very end. And if you don't notice it, or you forget about it, and you're just like making micro warping adjustments in between, it's messing up the tail end until you get to that part. It's a terrible explanation, but if you've went through it, you know what I mean. But more often than not, dragging in shorter clips, I'm trying to loop them more often. So I personally leave that on. Auto warping long samples, like full tracks. Most of the time, I'm honestly deleting Ableton's warp markers. I should probably have that off. But it's up to you however you use it. And default warp mode, I always leave my own repitch. More often than not, like obviously I have sessions that are more than just cut and paste stuff, but more often than not, I'm just doing that kind of thing. Or with, often I like dragging in like loops and clips from, like, say it's from a sample pack, and I'm just trying to chop up some ideas. I don't care if like a drum loop repitches on me. It's gonna sound clean to whether it's being repitched or not. If I have it on beats and it's being sped up or slowed down, it could sound kind of weird, like kind of chopped up. I just want it to sound normal-ish, whether it repitches or not. Again, that's your pick, but just something to look at. This is a big one right here. Creating fades on clip edges. I always have that off. And the reason is because when you make a split in a clip, when you have this on, it's going to create a tiny little fade, like it says, but which is good when you're cutting and pasting clips together. It's going to cross those over to like eliminate clicks, which is, while that's good, more often than not, I find people forget, especially at the very start, when they've cut a clip, it's got that little roll off. So on whether it's at the start or wherever else, that's usually rolling off the transient of like a kick or something. So parts of it are going to come off as like kind of flat. They're not going to hit it the way they're supposed to. So, and you can always make those clip fades manually. I would advise against it personally, especially if you're like making cut and paste edits. Not a big deal, because most of the time, like it's only one track, so it's all kind of sitting together as one song. But if you're doing, if you're making a song and you've got hundreds of clips kind of all over your session, and they've all got kind of like roll fades on their edges, like sometimes those little snappy bits at the end or at the start are kind of like what helps shape a sound for what it is. So just be aware of that exists, and that you can change that. I was going to do a couple other things in here. I'll just be quick on them. Mostly like in the top left here. A thing I like to do is changing the launch count in to none. And this is really useful in a session because you can click around kind of like you would in like Serato on the track wave. You can just kind of click anywhere and it'll launch immediately, versus if you have this at say 1 bar or 2 bars. Ableton, it's a sequencing program, so it's going to try and time it so that it launches on time, as if you were like performing with it. So putting this to none kind of just like eliminates those like little half-second, 1 second delays to like actually keep things moving. And then 2 more things just quickly about speeding up your workflow and increasing your productivity. When you say you built like a little mini effects chain, like you had a compressor, you had an EQ, and I don't know, you had another compressor. Say you had these all, you set these settings how you like them, and later on you're like, wow, like that was really effective. I loved how that worked out. You don't have to build this again. You can select all your effects here, Command G, group them, and then in the bottom left here, there's a little disk. You're going to want to save that. And then in your audio effects rack and your presets, this will pop up and you rename it to C-Flow, EQ, comp, whatever. And then that's saved. Whenever I drag that in, that's exactly the same thing that will show up. So I delete that, I pop this back in, same thing. And then using Ableton's collections, this was new in 10, maybe in an update, I believe. I can drag this into one of my preset folders. So now I don't have to go digging through my presets or stock presets or plugins, or I know people probably have a lot of plugins that they don't even use. this has saved me so much time. I have my go-tos where I need them to be, and I'm just there doing it. So yeah, and the last part, I would highly recommend. I mean, I can't explain them all here, but learning essential keyboard shortcuts that will save you so much time from having to like right click or something like that all the time. Because just being able
and Nick, you're doing weekly seminars, right? On your if they follow you on your social channels,
yeah,
they can tune in for more in-depth Ableton stuff.
Yeah, so for the last few weeks, I've done on my Twitch channel. It's the same handle below my name there, but just kind of like an hour of just walking through random things in Ableton. So that I always do that at 11 a.m. Pacific time. That's 2 p.m. Eastern.
And everyone will have the opportunity to opt in to share their email, and they'll get on Nick's list. And now that it's just us left, Kaz, Nick, and Brett, I do want to mention that you guys are edit kings here. We got a really heavy hitter. There's so many different editors out there and edits, and I love to see everyone doing their thing, but there's only a couple that I trust when it comes to like quality and stuff that I like. And you guys are in the very short list of people who I want to get files from, and I'm happy to have you guys involved. So thank you so much.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think you're gonna put anybody wants on my edit blast, hit me up. I got you.
So that's what after this, I'm gonna in the follow-up emails, or sorry, the follow-up survey. There's going to be 4 questions, one for each panelist, and whether or not you want to pass along your email to them to be added to these guys' edit blast list, Ableton for Nick, and obviously Serato for OP. So thank you, Nick, for the rundown there. I appreciate all that, and I'm looking forward to the next webinar on your Twitch.
Yep, so that's Saturdays.
Awesome. So we're about to wrap it up. I just have one more thing here. And it's part demo, but also part announcement. Something I've been working on for the past couple weeks, and it is launching today. Here we go. So I'm coming out with Stemverter. I'm putting it out on the market today. It is an app that you can download, and it converts any song on your Mac to acapella and instrumental, or breaks it down even further to acapella, drums, bass, and melody, or even further if there's piano. Now, this piano one doesn't necessarily pick it up, as I really stick to 2 and 4 myself. It works on any song. It's unlimited amounts of conversion. And it is basically, if you're familiar with Phonic Mind, you have to upload and pay per file. This is unlimited, and it's on your computer. You can go to stemverter.com, and it is priced at $79, but we have 2 coupons for you today. Right now, Stems 15 is part of the launch. It takes 15% off, and it expires at the end of next month. But you can stack the coupons together and use webinar 10, and it expires in next week. It is ready to go. I would love to see people using this, and especially if you're making your own edits in Ableton, any DJ, this is going to be an absolute game changer. I'm really excited. I've been working on it for, like I said, a couple weeks now, and it is ready in time for this webinar. When you download it and you use it, there's a share button, and you can share it with your friends, and they get a different discount here as well. So please go check it out. I'm going to show you really quickly what it looks like here. Here is the app, and you basically just choose a song. And I'm going to go here. I mean, I already ran it. It takes a couple of minutes to run. It uses AI and machine learning, and it splits the files. So I've already done it to a couple of these. You would choose the file. You can tell it where you want it to go. So if you have a special, Stemverter folder or wherever you want it, and then you choose the stems and you hit convert, and it goes. That's stemverter.com. I'll show you. I don't know if you guys can hear because I'm using headphones, but I will very quickly. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear this, guys. Like, here's the drums. Can you hear that?
Nope.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna go into my Zoom settings and take out my earplugs.
All right, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So check it out. So here is breakdown. So like, here's the drums. Oh, and then here's other. Here's like everything else. Gosh, my computer's lagging because of the Zoom here. So that's like the melody. And here's the vocals.
Left me at all. So if you don't wanna see me.
It's insane.
This is automatically like
It's automatic. You dump the
you
file.
can do it. You can do it to any song. You grab it right away, and like obviously you would have to go depending on the edit, remix, or whatever you're doing. It needs to be tweaked on Ableton, but for what it is, for you to get the acapella of a song and want to make an acapella out for a mix, you know, or for an edit 5 minutes, 10 minutes before, like you can do this shit on the spot. I've been using it for a while.
So,
I've made
yeah, I hooked you up with it when it was in development like 3
Right.
weeks ago. So here's Janet Jackson. I'm just gonna play the vocals. This is a 2-step. And here's the instrumental. It's a game changer. It just splits them. You're in charge, and like I said, it's unlimited conversion. You don't have to keep paying per track and uploading and downloading and all the other pain in the ass stuff that for the solutions that are out there right now. So,
a thing that I like to do with these things when you get, if you like, even if your drum stem sounds kind of not great, it's still really useful when you're in Ableton because you can crop the bit you want, and then you can audio to MIDI the clip, and then instead of Ableton trying to read from the whole song of what just the drum, like now you've got the pattern from that drum bit, and now you can create your own just insert your own sounds, and you've got like the same rhythm, same patterns.
When you drop the stems in Ableton together, all 4 files just line up perfectly. They're already built, and you can convert to MIDI, also like the melody and stuff like that. And now it's stripped down, and you can just grab the melody and change it to an instrument. So anyone who's doing edits or remixing or live blends, like this is really gonna be a game changer for everyone in the community. And I'm really excited for all the edits that are gonna come out once this gets in people's hands.
even as simple, like this is gonna sound like really dumb, but if you grab the file, you convert it, you run it through Stemverter, and then you drop the file, the vocal, and then whatever else, everything is gonna line up because it's grabbing the same file. So to make an acapella out, you literally just line everything up and cut it wherever you want it to. Like, you know, that's 2 minutes worth of work, but in the long run of you just lining everything up, it's gonna save you a lot of time.
Yeah, like I'll make an edit and then I'll run it through Stemverter because it's already spaced.
Yeah,
You know,
that too.
Anyway, yeah, that's pretty much it. So again, I want to reiterate, I put on this webinar today to give out a bunch of free tips and information in hopes that you would think of me the next time you're running through something that you needed paid one-on-one help with, or if you have any friends or family members, or you know, small business owners, anyone who needs remote support on Zoom, and just think of me. That's why I'm doing this webinar. And then also to launch Stemverter, and you can stack those coupons and it brings it under $60. And then just don't forget to get this post-webinar survey. And then there will be way more questions, just like the polls, but that get more specific, and it'll be cool to see some of that information.
And this is going to be recorded, right? So
yeah. So all the stuff we talked about, the product links, anything we mentioned is going to go out in an email to everyone who's registered, whether or not you attended. And the link to the YouTube at the end that's recorded is going to be available. There is a time limit on some of these promo codes, but the rest of the information's out there. Oh, I know we're going to do some Q&A, and I do want to ask real quick. I saw some stuff that I was clarifying in the chat about Time Machine. Time Machine backs up everything on your computer. Everything. It backs up
the settings and the programs and the crates and your preferences and the whole computer. And it even backs up everything if you have a USB connected to the side. So if you have a thumb drive in there, if you have another hard drive in there, if you had enough room on your Time Machine hard drive to back up the stuff that's the peripherals that are connected, it would back up all the data on those as well, anything connected on USB. I would recommend doing it every 1 or 2 weeks, or anytime you complete a large project that you do not want to have to slog through again. Anytime you're just trying to save your ass, like get out the hard drive, plug it in, back it up. The other thing I wanted to show this control panel here, let me share the screen again. So in Time Machine, you go here and you select it. I can't show you because mine was already selected, but you just select the drive and then you uncheck backup automatically, meaning you're in charge. So automatically Time Machine will say backup automatically, and you just uncheck that, and then you just have to go up to click backup now. That's all it's one click, but you're in charge rather than the Mac being in charge. The other thing I guess to mention is that it names your computer based off the name. Everyone should go in and check sharing, and you can name your computer. And a lot of people who migrate their computers over and over, it just says MacBook Pro. That would get confusing. The Time Machine looks at this name. So you want to name this something unique. Every time I change laptops or erase my computer, I change the name, C-Flows. That's why it says 2020. This is a 2015 MacBook Pro, but I put 2020 because I erased it in 2020. So just that's where that setting is. And it's the same as like general iPhone where you can name your iPhone. It's the same exact thing, but for your Mac, it's kind of hard to find. It's in sharing. So do we want to go to Q&A?
Yeah, why not?
Questions in the chat?
You saw the ones on the side, and I mean, you've answered most of them. Some of them were. One just popped up. It said, "Can you please show the iTunes library setting one more time?"
Yeah, I can do that. I mean, my iTunes is, like I said, I think the fact we're doing a Zoom cast and I'm simulcasting on YouTube, and
it's pulling a lot.
Open, and I got 3 different web browsers open because I'm trying to show you guys stuff. It's bogging it down. Am I here? Let me share it. Okay, so we're looking at iTunes preferences, and you want to go here to advanced. We want to uncheck copy files. And there was another question in the Q&A. I typed an answer. Also, I don't know if people in the chat see there's a separate question and answers chat. And we've been typing to some people and answering questions that way. So there's a whole bunch of info in there that you're probably going to want if you didn't see it already. And please, if you're asking questions in the chat now, please ask questions in the Q&A so we can get to address them. But I saw a question about when you uncouple Serato and iTunes. I'm just going to run through it again to really kind of make sure it's clear. When they're connected, you open Serato, you go to the iTunes tab, for lack of a better word, crate. Like when you click on iTunes, it's all the music in your iTunes. You select all, and you dump it into a new crate and name that crate like all iTunes. Serato indexes those files on your computer and their locations. Now it's part of Serato's database. Whether or not some of those songs were in crates, it doesn't matter. You're just putting it in a new crate, and Serato is basically linking to every file. Then you uncheck in Serato's preferences the iTunes, like in library, you uncheck the iTunes library, and it removes iTunes coupling, but because you did that first step, Serato knows all the tracks that were in iTunes, so you're good. Now they're uncoupled. It doesn't matter if you've been doing it for years, because all it is those files live inside the iTunes. That's just their place on your hard drive. That's all it is. And so it's not going to mess you up to do that. I guess, does that answer that question? Oh, okay. What are people saying here? Kaz, you want to give me a cue?
There's a few Serato ones. Oh wait, there's a few. It says currently running El Capitan, and I would like to upgrade to Mojave. Oh, you know what? Real quick before that, a few people were asking about downgrading.
Yes. Okay. So
there was a few questions about downgrading.
You want to do a full backup on Time Machine and then run that clean install process with Mojave on a USB. You get a USB drive. I'm going to show you the one. My virtual background is blocking it. So you just get this one. It's $6. It's USB 3.0. It's 32 gigs. I'm gonna put a link afterwards. You create the Mojave installer, you do a clean install, and then we pick through the time machine and grab the stuff back out. You do not want to be on Catalina. It is not your friend, and it is headed in the direction that Apple's been headed for a long time, tightening and tightening and tightening.
Yeah, the most important things here is just backing up your stuff. Having a thumb drive that's big enough, because I didn't have one. And yeah, just having the thumb drive, because once you do the thumb drive, you literally are running it from the thumb drive. And never do, what's the other thing you told me? Never do it through Wi-Fi.
Oh yeah, so like instead of doing the thumb drive option to build a OS installer, Apple gives you the option to boot into recovery mode and use, or there's like an internet recovery mode, and you can, Brett, have you gone through this process?
Yeah, you can do internet recovery mode, and I can't think off the top of my head, but there's actually 2 different key commands. One of them is that it will recover to the version that your Mac shipped with,
yes.
And the other one is that it will recover from whatever's the latest point release.
Right.
Yep.
So you don't want to do that because it's like super stressful on the Wi-Fi. It takes way longer. And with this, at least, I mean, like I said, this thing's $6. All you have to do is build it. The software that comes from free from Apple servers, and then you have a tool that you could recover your friends. You know, if you have a problem in the future, it's like this thing. Throw it in your drawer, but you now have like a Mac help tool of your own. That is, a lot of people don't have access to that. So it's I'm going to send out the link to the Mojave installer, and I'll put a link to the help file about how to build the Mojave installer onto a bootable USB. You don't just drag it, it's a whole thing. But if you're uncomfortable with how to do it, we can book a Zoom session and I can walk you through it.
Somebody just wrote on the chat, I have a Facebook DJ group I would like to promote.
Yeah.
Stemverter.
So stemverter.com. Can you put that?
Yeah.
Stemverter.com, and the coupon code is STEMS15. The coupon code webinar10. Truthfully, it would work, but obviously I'm trying to reward you guys who are tuning in and supporting me. So this, I'm in a situation where I just dumped a bunch of money into developing.
Yeah, keep the webinar to yourself.
I would appreciate if you kept it to webinar registrants, because that would be
we know.
Yeah, like I'm just, yeah, it would work, but I would prefer if they use stems, stems 15. Did it not go? Stemverter.com. Anyway. Any other questions? Yeah, no, thank you. Thank all the attendees. I appreciate all you guys, here. Oh yeah, the share button, I could show you that. It's gonna open my stupid Mac mail. When you click share, it composes a message and sends it, hey, here's another email code. So if you really want to share it with someone, it's got a separate coupon code for that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, here's a good question I see. If you're using Time Machine, do you want to erase what's previously on the external? You want a dedicated external. You don't want to mess with an external that has Time Machine and then also some movies because they're too big for your hard drive, and the MP3s your buddy hooked you up with. Like, that's not a backup. That's another thing I was going to clarify here. A backup means 2 copies. If you run Time Machine and you're like, oh, I have a backup, and you delete something off your computer, you don't have a backup. You just have 1 copy in Time Machine. You want 2 copies. So Time Machine is meant to be used as a mirror image, so to speak, of what's going on in the moment. So only consider it like, I'm gonna run my Time Machine, and then I can get back to the moment that I ran the Time Machine. Not, I have a full season of this show on here, I'm gonna run Time Machine and delete the season. It's like, it doesn't work that way. It would work, but that's not the idea you want when thinking about backups. That means you only have 1 copy if you do that. Anything else?
The survey.
Oh, there's a lot of people asking questions in the Q&A. Oh yeah, the survey here, we can just send it out. Oh, here, I've got a
few people have checked out, so I was trying to.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, not good. Sure. I got the oh yeah, I got some promo codes for people. You can get 1 month of Backblaze free. This is going to go out to you guys. And then I've got all the products that I am pre-put together. All these links will go out. It looks like there is one Boss Hog MacBook Pro on Amazon, so there's only one left. It's a bit expensive. You can get it for cheaper on eBay, but I figured maybe someone would want to do that. Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks everyone for joining. I really appreciate you guys taking the time and sharing. All the panelists, thank you for sharing your knowledge and your expertise. And I am honored to have you guys with me.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you guys. That's it, right?
I think so. I mean, we'll gauge the interest on doing another one that might be a more deep dive into certain. I see a lot of people with very specific questions. So yeah, I see you, Brian, with the ID3 tagging and crate sorting. And this is all stuff we can get to, but I just wanted to set it up today to like really promote, you know, cinchsupport.com. Go check it out if you want to book a one-on-one session. And especially if you have friends and family who, this isn't just DJ stuff. Like I can help anyone with anything when it comes to Macs. I think that's it. I think we're gonna end the webinar here. Thank you guys.
Thank you guys so much. Hold on, somebody else just popped.
Oh, the survey. Yeah, you know, I got so many different tabs open here. I don't know which one's connected to the right Google form. Did I send you the survey in a text?
Nope.
I did.
You did?
I can't get to it right now, but the survey will go out in the follow-up email for everyone who registered. And I think if you close it, it might even be right away in Zoom. I haven't messed with that. So, all right, guys.
Sweet.